And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it. And it's a ticket talking Mazda for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. And a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma. Gotta get it.
Hello everyone and welcome back to GPVWC, not for one of your regularly scheduled series, being one of our career ladder championships, but for a brand new special event. I say brand new, it is one that they've run before, but a one-off special event, the Sim Race of Champions. My name is Caitlin Penny. Alongside me for this wonderful event is Edward Hunter. Ed, it's only day one of day two of 2 days so far, so we're going to be seeing the round of 32 today, but that gives us plenty of opportunities to introduce all of our wonderful competitors and see just how everything stands going into the second day.
Yeah, absolutely, Caitlin. It's great to be here, and we've got 32 of the very, very best, including our 4 champions, I believe, from Super League, Super Lights, FS1 and FS2 this season, as well as some other really, really highly rated drivers that have won races that have been very, very competitive in GPV and other series in R Factor 2 as well. A lot of great multidisciplinary drivers, but the champion from last year is, of course, Jake Denahan, who's coming to retain that #1 seed. But of course, the man he beat in the final last year, Jan Grankvist, sadly has had to pull out at the last minute due to, I believe, a neck injury. So I believe Mark Schutter is going to inherit his seeding, and I think Davide Zanini is going to get put on the entry list as a result. So Davide gets a chance to shine, but it's a big, big shame for Jan Grankvist, who I think was really looking forward to showing what he can do. Instead, he's going to be like us, Caitlin. He's going to get to spectate on what hopefully is going to be a very, very entertaining 2 days of competition.
Yes, indeed. So how this works in terms of our bracket is that everyone is going to have an opponent, and if they overcome that opponent in a best of 3, they will move on to tomorrow's round of 16. There you see our first matchups being shown on the screen right now. So for the first round, we are delighted to announce that we're starting off extremely strongly with our reigning champion and of course Super League champion, Jake Denahan. Now he is seed 1 for this championship, and he will be facing Noah Tuamela, who is seed 32, although Noah had to qualify for this event, having gone through the qualifiers in the Academy car, so we know that he's strong here, and we know that he has the pace. Denahan, of course, qualified by virtue of being the Super League champion, so he kind of got a bye into the competition. So in terms of the entry sheet, you'll notice that this is the top seeded driver versus the bottom seeded driver, but that's not to say that it's going to be a walkover by any means, because Jake has to get it through this very tight course in one piece and faster than Noah Tuamela, who has already gone quickly around here.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is if you look at last year, Dehan came through from the FS1 bracket, so he was sort of in the middle, and he got all the way to that final and won it. But he had to beat some very, very tough competition, including the likes of Tom Stevens, Jan Grankvist, who I already mentioned, and there are a couple others like Darius Andre as well. I think he had to face quite early on too in the round of 16. And we know Darius has come back for a second bite of the cherry. He's seed number 18, facing against Luca Filin a bit later. But Tuamela, of course, very competitive in FS2 this season. But it's going to be a little bit tricky for him against someone like Jake Denahan. We know how quick he is, not just in the Super League Cup, but in multi-disciplines. He was very, very competitive in the NASCARs last year, and that was what it came down to, like literally 25 thousandths of a second, I think, in the very final against Jan Grankvist. And I actually called Jan as the winner mistakenly, and Menno had to quickly correct me on that one, which was probably not my finest moment, but it was, to be fair, the first commentary I did for GPV. So anyway, yeah, I think Denahan will be very, very eager to show what he can do once more. And Tuamela's got a big chance to maybe put in a giant killing feat here if he can put in a perfect couple of rounds.
Yeah, 2 victories in FS2 for Noah Tuamela this year. He had a top 10 finish in FS1 in one of the few rounds that he did in that, and also a top 10 finish in SL2, finishing 7th at the Spanish round of the championship. He has potential here, although Jake Denahan, of course, needs no introduction, having won 6 of the 16 rounds in Super League this year, and winning that championship at the end of the season by 22 points. So he should absolutely be the favourite coming into this one. Now, we are running slightly over time, waiting for the start of this race. They're ready, good. So we're being told that they're lining up on the grid, and hopefully any second now we should see the first race getting underway. Ed, this is such an exciting format.
It is, and I'm not sure exactly which cars they're going to start in. I believe it's the 21 GT, or the GT4 essentially.
The Alpine GT4. So here we go then. This is the short warm-up session that they're doing. Let's see if we can get acquainted with which car is which in this session. So you'll recognise this car if you've driven it. It's the 2021 Alpine A110 GT4 car. A beautiful car which handles absolutely delightfully, as Noah Tuamela disrespects what I was just saying and bounces off the barriers. A100 GT4 Cup car, my apologies. But this is in fact the GT4 version of the car. I've raced the Cup version of the car, and I have to admit it's a car that suits my style quite well, so I'm kind of jealous of these guys being out there in this vehicle now. And I would very much love to be out there by myself. But if you guys are interested, then make sure you look out for next year's Race of Champions bracket. There's a sign-up sheet that goes out. The top 4 from each of our main series brackets automatically qualify. So if you are in fact top 4 in Super League, SL2, FS1 or FS2, then you automatically qualify. There are also a good deal of challenges, so basically invitational class drivers, and then of course there are 4 extra drivers who have qualified for this championship by themselves, including Noah Tuamela, who of course is in this race. So Tuamela will be starting on the left. Looks like Denahan will be starting on the right. It should make no difference theoretically, although it is a best of 3 just in case, and they will swap sides for the second of the 2 races, or the first 2 races. So now we just wait for the countdown to be complete, and then we will do 2 laps of this this circuit. It's an interesting circuit where you cross over sides, end up doing 1 lap on each side of the circuit. And it's go, and a much better start for Denahan. Tuamela seems to have really bogged down there, not entirely sure what happened. Denahan heads straight into the banking and heads over the bridge. That's the way that the courses cross over each other. There's more banking, and he drifts it into a left-hander, followed by another right-hander. You can see him quite a long way ahead of Tuamela on the board that's showing on your screen. He goes through a tunnel, the car looking resplendent under the lights. Across the start-finish line, and Ed, we're on to the second lap.
Yeah, it just looked a bit like Tuamela just completely bogged down, as you say. I think maybe he got a little bit caught out by the short hold there compared to compared to how long they were all waiting for the round to start. But of course, Denahan gets the rotation beautifully. The Alpine just really, which it's got a fairly short wheelbase compared to some of the single-seaters, especially compared to the Super League car that Denahan was driving for most of the season. And there you see the gap, 50.8 for Denahan, 53.4 for Noah Tuomela at the end of lap 1 there. So it's going to a lot of work for Noah to do to get this first round back, or a mistake from Denahan might give him the opportunity. But at the moment, looking like a pretty back foot that Noah Tuomela finds himself on.
Indeed, and apologies for calling the first lap too soon. It looks like one lap counts as a lap on each side of the circuit, so it's realistically a 4-lap race. So
yeah, we need to get on top of this early, don't we, Caitlin?
Of course, Tuomela has brought it back, so Denahan's made. And he comes out of the final corner to take round 1. No, Denahan takes it. What's going on? Okay, so, well, it was showing Tuomela as ahead. I think that was a time screen glitch, my apologies.
I think that's literally because there's the shorter route as well in the first half. But yeah, Denahan 47.1 in lap 2, Noah Tuomela 48.0, so it was 9 tenths down.
God, that's going to be difficult to get on top of, isn't it? Okay, well, at least we're figuring this out. It's much better that we're making these kind of mistakes in the first round than in the final. So Denahan wins that race by 3.6 seconds, but he's got to do it all again if he is to progress to round 2. So for Tuomela, what he's got to do now is push like his tournament depends on it, because it absolutely does. If he gets knocked out here, if Jake Denahan beats him once more, then he will be out of the tournament straight away. Then again, absolutely no hard feelings will come from that, I'm sure, because Jake Denahan is not exactly the biggest insult to lose to, but there you go. There's still one more attempt, and they will start from the other side of the grid, if I'm not very much mistaken.
And that's absolutely correct, Kate. And I think Tuomela, if he can get within maybe half a second, 6 tenths, he'd be doing extremely well, because Denahan has just been fearsome all year round, and has been even in the look at FSR, he gave Jene Simoncic a bit of a hard time wrapping up his 4th FSR World Championship, as well as winning Super League, as he said. So he's a man very much in form, a lot of confidence, no matter what car he seems to be on board. So he seems very, very eager to get another Racer Champions style under his belt, and Tuomela has sort of been a bit unfortunate with the seeding that he's been given. Probably one of, if not the toughest driver to beat here right off the bat, but let's hope he can make a good show of it at the very least.
Indeed. So we're getting ready for the start of the second of our races. This is still round 1 of the tournament bracket. I'm liking the predictions coming through in the YouTube chat as well, even though Luke Mitchell appears to have betted against himself. His round is coming up later on.
I think he's throwing the light match
in the middle of the screen, and it's go! And Tuomela gets a better start this time. Jake Denahan has gone nowhere. Come on, Jake, get that car started. Well, it looks as if he's completely stopped over there, and he's got it running. Okay, so Jake Denahan giving Noah Tuomela a huge head start. That's got to be 8 or 9 seconds in that one. There you go, 8.5 seconds. So Tuomela romps off into the lead. And this is exciting, because if Tuomela can bring this home cleanly, then he sets us up for one final run, one final head-to-head in this matchup. And that's always what we like to see. So there you go, massive sausage curbs on the inside there to stop cars from cutting over the escape road. And I am not going to pay any attention whatsoever to the timing screen and the gap that you can see at this point in time, because we saw in the last race that it is not accurate whatsoever. So realistically, you've got to take a look at the timing screen after each individual lap to see the actual gap. Looks as if that is 7.5 seconds, and that is realistic. Now on to our second lap, Ed.
Yeah, 8 seconds between the two. So Noah Tuomela 8 seconds faster, or just over 8 seconds faster actually. So Denahan is going to have to put in something very, very special if he wants to claw it back. But yeah, it looked very strange there. Obviously, Tuomela's holding the previous roundup was very, very short. But here, Denahan seems to have given him a massive, massive head start. And we're having news, by the way, about another driver about to be replaced by Joe Gillette, actually. So it looks like Mikhail Tuomala may have had to pull out of the tournament.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a little while. But here comes Noah Tuomela, and he wins the second race of the matchup. So Tuomela goes through, and Jake Denahan will have to fight him once again in one final matchup between the two of them to see who will progress to the round of 16. This is exciting stuff, Ed, and highly unpredictable.
Yeah, and Denahan, even though he was 3 seconds slower in the final sector on lap 2 there, he still set a lap just over 2 seconds quicker than Toala. So definitely, despite whatever happened, I suspect it may have been some sort of screen freeze or software or hardware issue where it just wasn't responding in time. And he had to fix it on the fly, which is never ideal, especially in such a short format like this. But yeah, it sets us up for, it gives Toala that little bit of a chance, and he may think, if that happens again, I can potentially do a giant killing feat here, as we see Toala just bump the wall there as well over the bridge before he goes. What looks like it's like a massive cavern here they built on this Sim Race of Champions circuit, isn't it? And I really love it. It looks like almost like racing inside an active volcano at points, like a Bond
Yeah, it's
villain.
beautiful. We should give credit to the person who designed this track as well. Let me just get that information up for you. Looks like it was designed by Ruben Correa Alves. So our commendations for this beautiful bit of engineering, and it's providing some good racing so far. Although I have noticed something a bit strange. So both times, of course, both races, the driver in the right lane got away slowly. Now, it's a little early in the competition to say that there is necessarily a problem, so we've got to wait and see, maybe wait and hear from the drivers about exactly what is going on there. It might also just be that the car is quite difficult to start. I mean, personally, I've never had an issue with that, but I have to admit, I don't know exactly what these drivers are running. Maybe they aren't running the auto clutch or something along those lines. And look, and that's a jump start. So, oh, there we go. Don't quite know what's going on there, but we're going to get them back on the line again.
I think that's Jake just trying to make sure he can actually start this time.
Maybe, yeah. That was weird. Okay, so now we wait for the lights for the third of 3 races. Best of matchup, Ed.
Yeah, so much pressure, especially on Denahan, not to give away a progression here to Noah Toala, because as the lights come on, surely he's got a chance to win this back now.
So here we go again, and they both get away. Denahan's slightly better, but they have both got going. So that's the most important thing. So for once, we have a race on our hands. Toala through the chicane, kicking up bits of grass, taking all the track and more. Track limits are being monitored for this round. You've got to keep it either on the white line or the curb, but the curb does count, so that's one thing that you can look out for. Now this is the second half of the first lap. I know they crossed the start-finish line, but they've got to do both sides of the track twice in order for it to count. So now Toala hooks it into the corner. We look to Jake Denahan as he's about to complete this part of the race, and you can see Toala in the background there, heading into the tunnel as well. It's always a beautiful sight. At one point, I want to see the drivers crossing over each other, one going over the bridge, one going under. Denahan leads by 1.1 seconds, 1.2 seconds at the end of the first lap, so Toala's got to do something to bring this back here. We saw that Denahan had a slightly better start. He uses all of the curb into that hairpin. I think that's just about legal there, Ed.
Yeah, just about, and it gave us a lovely camera shot as well. And now it's only 1/2 a lap to go before Denahan it can seal round 1 here, and he's been very competitive in the first 2 sectors here. Toala, I don't think, is going to be able to claw this back.
This, of course, is to determine who progresses to the round of 16. Wouldn't it be quite a shock? Jake Denahan, the top-seeded driver, was knocked out straight away, but it's not to be. Jake Denahan has won the first race here, the first bracket here in the GPVWC Sim Race of Champions. He defeats Noah Toala by 2 seconds, so that's all there was in it in the end. A very good performance from Jake Denahan, a characteristic performance from our reigning Race of Champions winner. But let's give a round of applause to Noah Toala, who fought very valiantly against the odds to bring it to within 1 victory of Jake Denahan in order to progress to that round of 16. Very good job, and like I said earlier, it's no insult to lose to Jake Denahan.
Not at all. But now our focus is probably going to shift then to round number 2, where there has been a late change, Caitlin, with Tuamala, I believe. Mikhail Tuamala has had to pull out very, very last minute. So we are going to get Joe Gillette, who, funnily enough, is someone I've been got to deal with as a driver for next year, going against Luke Maguire from Super League as well. So Joe Gillette has told me in confidence he's done about 8 laps of practice, so he thinks he's going to be very, very slow here. So again, another matchup where the odds are very much against the second driver. So I think Luke Mitchell is going to be feeling pretty confident going into this one. But Joe Gillette, he's sprung a few surprises here and there before, so I think it would be a mistake to underestimate him here.
Yes, indeed. He is a driver, of course, who sprung to prominence after a podium at the Abu Dhabi round of the Formula Sprint 2 Championship. It really came out of nowhere. It was a lot better than his previous results, and having commentated that race myself, it was a very good performance indeed. So he has potential, although if he has done as little practice as he says, then he's got a real uphill climb for this one. He also took part in a couple of races in FS1 this year, finishing 15th and scoring a point at one of the races. But he, of course, is up against Luke Maguire, who is a Super League race winner. Luke, of course, won the Azerbaijan Grand Prix earlier this year when Jake Denner was given a penalty, and he was 7th overall in that championship, so missed out on the automatic qualification, but got one of the invitational slots nonetheless. You have to say, Luke for this one's the favourite. That's very much indicated by the seeds for this as well. No, it's not actually, because Joe, of course, inherits that 16th seed. But realistically, Luke should be the favourite for this one. But you never know. Can Joe Gillette spring a surprise?
Yeah, it's never easy being drafted in at the last minute as well. So Joe Gillette, up until about 10 minutes ago, I think, didn't think he was going to be taking part. So not only has he had to come on, he's had to come on second as well. So he's got very little preparation. So you got to say, Luke Maguire is going to be feeling pretty confident, as I said, going in. But Joe Gillette, he's shown in the past where he's subbed in at the last minute. Obviously for different disciplines and events in the GPV career ladder, and particularly in FS2, like you say, he's had some very good performances near the tail end of the season, subbing in at other teams. So it'd be interesting to see how he does. I think Luke Maguire might have a little bit of a look in his wing mirror, but probably not too much, as he's
I tell you what,
on his own job.
Luke's just come into the YouTube chat and said, "I've done 7." So if that means 7 laps, then actually Joe Gillette's done 1 more lap than he has. So that
could
means
be that Joe is playing down his own chances as a little psychological tactic.
I mean, we're going into it blind. That's for sure. So yeah, keep your eyes on this one for sure. I think this could be a little bit of a scrappy round by the sound of it, but we like scraps here at GPVWC, and realistically, this is also a test of who can adapt to the circuit better. And it's also a good example of why it's important to sign up for things, even if you don't think that you're likely to qualify, because by being reserves, Joe Gillette and, of course, Davide Zanini, who we mentioned before, have got themselves onto the entry list for this race. And, of course, who knows what they can do from here. So there on the grid, which one of the two is this? That looks like Luke Maguire there, I think, on the left-hand side of the grid. Yep, so Luke will start from the left. Joe will start from the right. There you go. So Luke in the red car, Joe in the blue car. And once again, it will be a round of 3 to determine who goes through to the round of 16. And of course, their prize for doing this will be having to face Jake Denahan tomorrow. So Ed, there go the lights, and we are underway, and it's an even start that we've seen so far. Potentially a slightly better start for Luke Maguire. Into the tunnel we go then, on board with Joe Gillette, and then into the banking. The car snaking around, he very nearly scraped the wall there. You're allowed to touch the wall by accident. You're not allowed to use it to get around the corners, but of course that is not what Joe Gillette was doing. We head through another tunnel, the car again looking resplendent. Little bits of fire licking out the back as the car crosses the line. to start the second half of the first lap. And here's Luke Maguire doing exactly what Joe Gillette was just doing. Maybe a little bit cleaner, but does that equal faster? We'll have to wait till they cross the line once again.
He set a pretty good sector 2 there, Luke Maguire 22.9, so we'll see what that translates as they come out, and they're almost side by side with Luke Maguire, marginally ahead there by just over a tenth then, so there's not a lot in it at all. One tiny mistake might decide this game.
And it just updated itself actually. It looks like Joe Gillette might be ahead by a tenth. So this is really not decided whatsoever. We have to wait until the end of this race to call anything. I mean, that goes without saying, of course. Look how close Luke gets to the wall coming out of that final turn. He is using all of the track and almost more. Not that you can use more of the track around there. And then wide through the hairpin, tightens it up on the exit. That's a good line. That's probably just a preference there. And now they head through the tunnel once again towards the timing line. Who is it going to be then? Oh, I think he touched the wall there, didn't he? Oh. Yeah, that definitely touches it on the inside. But Luke Maguire will go through, or at least he will win the first of the best of 3 by 1.2 seconds, Ed.
Yeah, it was that second lap that really hurt Joe Gillette, 49.8 compared to 48.7 for Luke Maguire. So either Joe was taking it a little bit easier, or he made an even bigger mistake than we saw Luke do, because Luke, if he hadn't hit the inside wall there, could have gone even faster though. So first blood to Maguire, but Gillette really put up a fight there.
And well done for even recognizing that there was live timing going on, Ed. I honestly hadn't even thought to check, but yes, there is live timing. So if anyone wants to
I haven't
see
been
that,
making it up, I assure you.
that's good, that's good. You see, this is a lot more accurate than the timing you get on the screen. So yeah, if anyone wants to see that, make sure you go to raceview.com, because that is where you're likely to see the realistic times. So here we go then. We're getting ready for the second of the 3 splits. And if Luke Maguire wins this, then he will go through to face Jake Denahan, just as he did all season long in Super League Championship.
Interesting comments in the chat reacting to that. Mateus Pizgazan says Joe shall cook. Joshua Dexter says, Joe didn't cook enough. So, interesting little reactions there. But yeah, certainly Luke Maguire will be very, very keen to sort of get this sealed up rather than letting it go to the final round like we saw with Denahan. And indeed with Denahan, it looked like there was some sort of technical issue, or it's very uncharacteristic of Jake to just wait 8 seconds before starting the race after the green light comes on.
So will Gillette cook like a skillet in the second race of 3? We will have to wait and see, of course. There's Joe on the left-hand side, Luke Maguire on the right. And we've got 2 more laps to come your way, or 4 more laps, depending on which way you look at it. There are the lights in the middle of the screen. Do they both get away okay? It's go, 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 and yes, again, it's an even closer start. They were absolutely together heading across the timing line that time around, so absolutely no advantage either way. Luke Maguire now through the banking, looking at race view. He set a fairly good first sector, and he heads through the right-hander using all of the curb, even more than he did so in race 1, and he's going to get as close to the barriers as he could possibly get away with doing.
Yeah, much tighter apex there in the middle sector this time. 22.5 for Joe Gillette though in sector 2, so he is pushing on as well. And again, Luke Maguire not going to leave any time on the table then as he gets the rotation done for these last 2 hairpins then. And are we going to see as they complete the first lap side by side? No, it's Luke Maguire significantly ahead then, 51.5, 53.1 for Joe Gillette, so there was a mistake there for the British driver.
Yeah, little bit of a mistake. Joe slightly down. He's got to push on now.
Oh, and on the grass as well.
Pushing a bit much. He's on the grass. Now he needs to keep it clean and hope that Luke doesn't. Around the middle of the corner he goes there.
Look how many corrections he's having to do as well.
I think Luke's got this now, just as long as he keeps it tight, keeps it from sliding away from him. Joe keeping it very wide there, heading into the hairpin. He's driving it like a rallycross car here, but doing a good job to keep it out of the wall, of course. But like I said, I think Luke Maguire's got it now. We just wait for the checkered flag, and here it is. And Luke Maguire will progress to the round of 16.
Yeah, 47.9 for Luke Maguire. A little bit slower than what Jake Denahan was able to do in his rounds earlier against Noah Tuamela. But 48.2 for Joe Gillette. And so his short time subbing into this tournament, sadly, it's over for Joe. But he certainly put up a great fight in the first round against Luke Maguire. And I think his times... this time he was less than a second behind really there. So I think Joe can feel, given his lack of confidence and lack of practice going in, as he attested to, can feel pretty satisfied with that, as indeed could Noah Tuamela.
Well done for not making an "It's Jover" joke, but there you go.
I was going to make Gillette jokes about the best a man can get, but there we go.
Very good, very good. So our next lineup will be Sandeep Singh, who has inherited a spot actually. So Sandeep Singh in seed 8, and then Silver Yoffert will be seed 25. My apologies, Sandeep has not inherited a spot. He is there as a result of finishing 4th in the Super Lights Championship this year. So Sandeep Singh with a lot of potential here. He won the Abu Dhabi round of that championship and was on the podium in 2 other rounds of the season. I'll get you Silver Yoffert's result as soon as the Discord pop-ups stop popping up on my screen. But yeah, Silver is one of the drivers who got in as a result of... Sorry, my apologies. So he was one of the invitational, as one of the challengers, as they're listed. Another driver. Sorry, what's up? Oh, we're still on Joe Gillette versus Luke Maguire. Why is this? Okay, well it looks like they're going again. I'm a little confused as to why this is happening here, because Luke has already progressed as far as we're concerned. So unless they're just doing this 3rd race for the fun of it. Yeah, sorry.
Well, I suppose if we're being technical about it, there's a possibility that Luke Maguire could get disqualified and Joe could get through. But yeah, mathematically it's not really possible. But I suppose it's fairer on Joe to let him have another go. But doesn't, from a tournament perspective, it doesn't seem to have too much consequence, sadly.
Sorry, I was not expecting this to happen, but whatever the case, we're on to...
I'm not sure any of us were. Maybe Joe.
The 3rd race between Luke and Joe. So, an opportunity for Joe to get some bragging rights, I suppose. Oh my goodness! Well, I've never seen anyone land an Alpine on its side before. That is very impressive stuff. Okay, well...
I'm so glad we got this extra round so Joe Gillette can show off his stunt skills.
Yeah, no matter what happens now, he's got the bragging rights of being the first person ever to land an Alpine on its side during a race. That
looks like he used the door to right himself, like this is Robot Wars all of a sudden.
That's really impressive. Well, yeah, I'm glad we got this 3rd race as well. Maguire's going to win it, but Joe Gillette, what a performance. Round of applause for that.
Yeah, certainly. If you can't beat them, flip it. That's the Joe Gillette motto, it would seem. 101.7 in the... Considering he was on his side, that's pretty quick. But at 47.9 once more for Luke Maguire then. So he's certainly not lost any of his pace then. And he gets an extra bit of warm-up in the Alpine, which may come in handy later, I guess. Although I guess Jake Denahan got to do 3 rounds as well. So the 2 of them are even, and they are going to face each other in the round of 16 tomorrow.
So Luke Maguire once again winning this particular race, as you can see. I'm being told that there's potentially a problem where you've got to do another half a lap once the checkered flag shows. So maybe that's part of what the problem was, why we're actually doing a 3rd race. I will get back to you on that. That was just fun. Okay, my apologies. God, this is confusing stuff here. Do you know what's going on?
It sounded like they just wanted to give Joe a chance to flip over. But
Yeah,
I
fair enough.
believe we are going to get Sandeep and Silva in the server soon, and we're going to see Singh versus Yoffert. And that is going to be very, very interesting because Sandeep Singh, of course, pretty competitive, top 4 in Super Lights, of course, a little bit overshadowed by his teammate Owen Maguire. But nonetheless, they got enough points to win Road to Formula, the team's title. Silva Yoffert, of course, I believe competed in Super League this season, or was it a part-time campaign? He's certainly got experience
Yeah.
from Super League. He's certainly probably the more experienced of the two, but Sandeep, I think, might just about have the edge based on what we've seen in GPV this season. But Silva Yoffert certainly got experience to spare, so you never can tell, really, going in. I think as the longer we go into this tournament, the closer some of these matchups are going to be, especially when we got Mayo versus Magio, which is one I'm very, very excited to see, our FS1 champion versus Alexandro Magio, who's been very, very quick in pretty much all the categories he's raced in. So I think that's going to be exciting to watch out for just after this. But Sandeep versus Silva, it's the two S's, I guess. It's a little hard for me to predict. I think I might go with Sandeep on balance, though.
Potentially, yeah. Silva Yoffert did a part-time campaign in both SL1 and SL2 this year. His best result in Super Light was an 11th place finish, and his best result in Super League were 2 16th place finishes. So not the most successful of series, but even so, it's impressive that he raced at such a high level in both championships nonetheless. Sandeep Singh, of course, is a race winner, having won the SL2 round at Abu Dhabi, and he also took part in 3 Super League races this year, with a best result of 9th place at the Bahrain Grand Prix. So if you look at those stats, then Sandeep Singh should be the more competitive, but of course it is absolutely not all to do with the stats. Races aren't won on paper, and now of course we've got to see which of them is going to come out on top, and which of them will come out facing the right way up after that last race. Goodness.
Yeah, and I just noticed Silva Yoffert's car has got silver written on the back as well, so that'll help tell it apart. So silver in the blue, Sandeep in the red.
And that is that's a complete coincidence as well. As we wait for the lights, and it is go, go, go. Of course, the silver there means silver category. Is the ranking of the driver who raced this car in the Alpine Cup. But anyway, off goes Silva Yoffert. Gets a slightly better start than Sandeep Singh, potentially. I'm afraid to say that my screen is lagging a bit right now. Ed, can you see a bit more than I can?
Oh, Silva Yoffert just hits the inside though, so despite having a great start, he had a little bit of a tag with the wall in the middle sector there that might cost him a couple of attempts. But he seems to still be circulating quite quickly as he gets the first half of lap 1 done. Meanwhile, Sandeep Singh 22-0 in the first sector. Let's cut to him now as, oh, there we go. Looks like he's lagging all over the show.
Yeah, I think we're all getting a bit of lag here. I don't think that this is on the driver's side. I think that from their point of view, this is all going fine and dandy. But from our point of view, we don't really know what's going on right now.
Time to come in. 51.6 for Silva Yoffert, 52.4 for Sandeep Singh. So regardless of whether what we're seeing with Sandeep is accurate, he's a bit slower, 8 tenths slower on lap 1.
Yep, so Silva Yoffert leading as they go through the first lap. We're heading towards the checkered flag now. They've got half a lap still to go. And we're watching Sandeep Singh as he lags his way through the tunnel and around the dual hairpins there towards the end of another lap. So we're looking, those lap times are not particularly good, so I wonder if there is something going on their end as well, or whether the second lap is just faster in general. But there we go, and it looks to be Silva Yoffert who claims it. So Yoffert's second lap was a lot more competitive, 47.9, and he goes 1.6 seconds up on Sandeep Singh and claims the first of the 3 races.
Yeah, so Yoffert's time's looking fairly comparable, I guess, to what we were seeing from Luke Maguire earlier. So yeah, that's very, very encouraging for him.
Absolutely so, and yes, I guess it does make sense for the second to be faster than the first because you get a bit more run up on the second lap. So yes, that makes sense. Apologies about the quality in that last race. I believe that was probably on the side of our broadcaster, maybe having a bit of internet issues there. But hopefully it will get a little better as the session continues, and we still have at least one more race coming between these two, possibly two, depending on how this goes.
Yep, but certainly with first blood to Silver Yoffert, and I'm trying to remember what nationality Silver is, because that might help.
Estonian.
Estonia, there we go. Yeah, I should really have remembered that from his cameos earlier, but that's certainly encouraging for the Estonian and his fans. I'm sure Silver has got quite a few that are cheering him on, as does Sandeep, of course. So Sandeep will be very, very desperate to get the upper hand here, because the starts between the two were very, very close, but Silver really got the advantage and never let it go in that first round. But here we go, Caitlin.
Yep, so the lights are going to go out for the second race.
Oh.
Silver got a better start this time. So Silver starting off slightly faster and heading through the tunnel. There goes Sandeep Singh. Remember, the first race of the three was won by Silver Yoffert, so if he... Oh, that's a big slide for Sandeep, look at that! And if Silver is able to bring this one home cleanly and still ahead of Sandeep Singh, then he will progress to the round of 16. Please do ignore the lag. We saw quite a lot of this in the first race, and really the lap times are going to matter a lot more than we're actually seeing on our screen in this one. But that is okay, because we've still got race view, we've still got the times that we can tell you, at least when they complete this first lap of the competition. So Sandeep Singh coming through, Silver Yoffert going through ahead, and the first lap time goes the way of Silver Yoffert. It's 1.1 seconds ahead, so that is the difference between the two of them, and that's going to be a difficult one for Sandeep Singh to make up. Although Yoffert possibly a little slidey through the hairpins there. Sometimes it's good to kick the rear out a little because it gives you that acceleration through the corners, but it's all in the balance. You can't cause the tyres to smoke too much because that would be costing you time. Silver Yoffert now through the tighter sections of the course, right up against the barriers, and now into the tunnel, which, as you said earlier, looks kind of like driving through the middle of a volcano. And out to the final corner he goes, and Silver Yoffert does go through to the round of 16. He has beaten Sandeep Singh by 1.4 seconds, Ed.
They were much closer on that second lap, though. 47.6 for Silver Yoffert, 47.9 for Sandeep Singh, so only 3 tenths down then. And Yoffert, I think, really standing out there. Maybe he could be one of the wild cards of this tournament that could potentially get to the quarters or the semis and cause some upset for maybe Denahan or Maguire, potentially, if they go through it in the round of 16. But there we go. We're going to have Silver Yoffert versus either Jack Mayer or Alexandro Magio in our second round of 16 match.
Yep, and after only 3 matchups, that's the first time that the lower-seeded driver has beaten the higher-seeded driver. Of course, Joe Gillette inherited the higher seed than Luke Maguire, although did not qualify with that seed, so I won't count that. But Silver Yoffert was genuinely lower seeded than Sandeep Singh and has overcome him nonetheless. So a round of applause to Silver Yoffert for that one. And now we wait to see if they're going to do a third race for the fun of it, or they will move on to our next matchup. And as you said before, our next matchup will be Jack Mayer versus Alexandro Magio. So Jack Mayer, who finally this year overcame opposition to win the FS1 championship, something that has been one of his goals for a good few years now. He beat his teammate Shim and Fric by 34 points in the end, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 victories. Very nicely done. And then, of course, Alexandro Magio has been an up-and-coming driver, one who was extremely impressive in the Super League Young Drivers test just the other day, one of the top times in that. He won the second race at Azerbaijan in the Formula Sprint 2 Championship this year. He also made 4 outings, or 2 outings if you're counting the rounds, in the FS1 Championship with the best result of 11th place. He made 4 outings in SL2 with the best result of 4th at the Italian the Italian round. And like I said, he's now made his kind of Super League debut, driving in the Young Drivers Test, and was extremely fast there. So definitely keep your eyes out for Alexandro Magio heading into the future with GPVWC. But one driver who is already here and already established is Jack Mayer, of course, who beat tough opposition this year in FS1 and comes into this as the 9th seeded driver, having won the FS1 championship.
Yep, this is another really, really close one, Caitlin, because of course Jack Mayer, we know exactly how good he is because he was so strong in pretty much all of the FS1 season, very, very consistent too. But Alessandro Magio is I don't want to say a qualifying specialist, but he was, of course, in those tricky conditions in the Super Lights round at Sao Paulo. He got pole position before, I think, finishing 6th or 7th in the race proper. He's also won at the same circuit in FSR Academy as well. So the last couple of months, Alessandro Magio has really been in a rich vein of form. So Jack May is really going to have to stay on his toes here, because that Italian is just going to be nipping at his heels throughout, I fear.
I definitely agree. So we are going to move on to Magio versus Mayer now. Magio will be on the left lane, Mayer will be on the right. And I'm hearing from Matthias Pissan and Shim and Frelick that Jack is actually doing this round on a controller rather than a traditional sim racing wheel. So I'm not sure, I don't think that's his traditional mode of transport, but anyway, off we go. So they get away pretty much dead even as they cross the line, maybe slightly faster for Magio. And now we see whether Mayer's controller antics are going to be enough to get him through to the round of 16. Look at that drift, brilliant stuff. Controls the throttle nicely, hops over the curb. He was up on 2 wheels for a split second. Not the cleanest way through the corner, but it got him through nonetheless. And we await the first lap times. Kicks it very wide and then heads through the left-hander. That's only half the lap completed there as he crosses the start-finish line. Whoa, my goodness! He was doing a wheelie. So far he's been up on 2 wheels laterally, and also front and rear, doing a proper wheelie there. Fantastic stuff from Jack Mayer. I'm not sure quite how fast it is, but this is giving us something to watch. Alessandro Magio completes the first lap 51.1, so he is 1.1 seconds ahead of Jack Mayer at this point in time, and no surprise there with Mayer almost taking flight.
Yeah, exactly. And I could tell immediately, even without knowing that beforehand, what you said, Caitlin, that he was using controller, because he was twitching in a straight line at the very start just to get to the outside line, which is a telltale sign of someone not using a steering wheel to drive, essentially. But yeah, and it definitely helps with the drifting. It's spectacular, but you don't quite have the fingertip control. It's all getting those quick changes of direction in a short wheelbase car. That's what the controller is probably a little bit better suited for than the steering wheel. But nonetheless, Magio absolutely flying at the moment. And there we go. Final lap 47.1. There we go. That's very impressive.
Fast, yeah. So Magio 2.8 seconds faster than Jack Mayer over the course of that round. And he has the upper hand heading into the second race of this bracket. And yeah, Jack Mayer's antics there reminds me of back in the day doing Forza Motorsport 4 on my Xbox controller. And it really is true that you do drift more just because of the way that the throttle is. I almost feel like I have more throttle control on a controller just because of how it is right at your fingertips. But of course, your steering inputs are so much clunkier, and it really doesn't bode well in the long term. But Jack there did a very cool job just to keep that car on the ground, let alone in the race. I believe that all 4 of his wheels probably found their fair share of air throughout the course of that race, and somehow he still managed to cross the finish line. So now we wait for race 2 to see if he can tighten it up and take it to the third of the race of 3, or whether Alessandro Magio will be progressing.
Yeah, watching Jack Mayer reminded me of the old days when I used to play Trackmania and it'd be using either a keyboard or a controller, and you have all these jerky movements trying to do Grand Prix circuits in that game in a little Trackmania stadium car. But yeah, and in fact, the circuit we've got here with all its banking does remind me of one of the tracks you'd see in Trackmania 2 Stadium, all this user-made tracks. But yeah, it could be that Jack Mayer is quicker using this setup, but it's a riskier setup than using the steering wheel. You're more likely to make a mistake. And here we go. Round 2, and Magio will be really aiming to seal this one as early as possible. And off they go.
Out go the lights again. Magio with a ever so slightly better start, maybe about half a tenth up. The car sparking its way through that first corner there. It's very low slung, and it scrapes along the ground. You see, the cars do just naturally drift through those hairpins there. It is potentially the best way through the corner because of the acceleration, but it's rear-wheel drive, so you can't give it too much throttle, because otherwise the thing will rotate on you, or over-rotate into mind. So we head into the second part of the first lap. This is where Mayer took flight, and even Magio sticks wheels up in the air from there, and keeps the car under control. You see Mayer in the background, heading into the tunnel, slots it through very, very nicely. It's almost satisfying watching that car fly into the darkness. And as we head onto the second lap, Magio has a big advantage here. 1.6 seconds is the gap. So Mayer, just as he did in race 1, has something to prove on this second time around.
Yeah, you can see Magio really setting up these corners, giving himself loads of space to it, where Jack Mayer is sort of just sliding in right to the inside and then dealing with the issues on the exit there, which is more spectacular to watch, but you can even just feel the time ebbing away through some of these corners, Caitlin. But Jack Mayer absolutely pushing through and hoping that he can get this time back, but as the rear just drifts out a little bit too much and he clonks over the curb and bashes into the wall there, it's looking a little bit leery, but certainly must be fun to drive.
Yeah, bashes into the wall, but keeps the throttle on and drifts it. Oh, he's hit the wall again! And it looks as if Alexandro Magio will be progressing, because his time there, a 47.2, another very fast lap time, has put him through ahead of Jack Mayer by 3 seconds. So Alexandro Magio wins this particular best of 3 and flies through the tunnel as a celebration, shows off his Magio magic, and he will progress to the round of 16. So congratulations, Alexandro Magio, again beating a higher seeded driver. And next up, we look to Adam Maguire, the 4th seeded driver, having won 2 races in Super League this year. And he will be facing Davide Zanini, who of course did not know that he was going to be doing this race until today. Jan Grankvist unfortunately had to pull out, so instead of Grankvist racing in this championship, Davide Zanini will be stepping in.
Yeah, so there was a sort of shuffle to fill in for Grankvist, because we've got Schluter inheriting sort of Jan Grankvist's seeding, I believe, and then Davide Zanini sort of filling in where Schluter would have been in the sort of tournament format. So yeah, another situation where Adam Maguire can be feeling quite confident. But of course, just a reminder, our second round of 16 is going to be Silver Yoffert versus Alessandro Maggio, and that I think is going to be another very, very close one. Maggio, it's nice to hear you using the Alessandro Maggio Magic Man nickname that I've been coining and trying to use it. It's nice to have someone else use it rather than just me.
It's pretty straightforward, right? Like, you don't need to know that he's got that nickname to know that he's got that nickname, right?
Exactly, yes. It's certainly one of the more flattering nicknames that I've given over the years, certainly. But anyway, I won't repeat all of them in this broadcast because some of them are not favourable. But yeah, Adam Maguire, I think will be feeling pretty confident against Davide Zanini. But again, Zanini, another one of those wildcard drivers who can potentially, when on a good day, really put in a strong performance. So if I was Adam Maguire, I wouldn't be feeling 100%. It's not all done yet. It depends what happens on track then. And we have seen Adam Maguire occasionally push a little bit too hard and make mistakes. But if he's anything like his brother Luke, he should be able to get through to the round of 16. And in fact, even more than that, Adam's not there at the moment. So Zanini apparently is going to have to race himself unless Adam Maguire resurfaces pretty soon.
Yeah, so that's a problem with a driver not ready for his race. And that should mean that Davide gets an automatic buy, unless there's another reserve that we can bring in super last minute. That would be quite something if we were to bring someone up completely just out of the ether. But yeah, Davide Zanini, I'll run over a couple of his statistics while we're waiting to have someone to race. He did 4 races in Super Lights this year, with a best result of 17th position. So no points in that championship, but once again, it's impressive that you start a Super Lights race in the first place. He has 3 13th place finishes in FS2, so that is his next best result, and he also came from the Academy Series this year, having scored 2 4th place finishes in that. So some fairly strong results there for Davide Zanini, and he was supposed to be fighting Adam Maguire, who of course has 2 victories in the Super League Championship this year, winning at both the Australian Grand Prix and the Singapore Grand Prix. Although if Adam does not show up, then that should give Davide an automatic bye to fight whoever wins out of Luke Mitchell and Munier in the next matchup in this round of 32. Sorry. Little bit of an update about Jack Mayer. Vincent Gutt has just let me know that Jack is currently in the process of buying a new sim racing wheel, and that's why he's using a controller, because he currently does not have a wheel and has not received his new one just yet. So that's an explanation, I suppose, for why Jack Mayer was not able to progress to the next round. But even so, congratulations to Alexandro Magio, who was very fast nonetheless. His times should tell you all that you need to know. Now, is that Davide Zanini all by himself on the grid? Yes, it is. So Zanini is out there by himself, and all he's got to do, I suppose... Adam's still not on the server, you say? Okay, so I presume this means that Davide is going to do a couple of laps as a procession, just for the fun of it. Because, yeah, here we go. So here come the lights, and Davide Zanini is going to do a little bit of a demonstration run out there for us. Off he goes. And of course, all he has to do is finish here to progress past Adam Maguire.
Even if he doesn't finish Caitlin, I don't think Adam Maguire can really say.
Even if he
crashes out here.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, yeah, Adam didn't show up. I wonder what's going on here.
Stakes, which were looking low going in, are now less than 0.
That's a very good Murray Walker quote right there. The stakes, which were 0. I think it was something like he was talking about someone's chances to win. He said they were 0 before and they're absolutely nothing now.
Nil, yes, I think was the term he used, yeah. But yeah, Zanini, certainly he'll be getting some practice in for later on, and it'll be interesting to compare his lap times to what we've seen so far. Because purple sectors, because he's not really been compared against anyone at the moment. We talked to Zanini during the young drivers test as well, and Davide, just as he clobbers over the curb then, just about gets collected up. He was one of the drivers who was really improving as the season went on. He sounded like he was in a really confident place, and I think he was very coy about his plans for next season, but he certainly seemed excited about them. But yeah, as we ride on board then, as he goes into the banking and into the cave as well, and just about gets the power. This is a great camera angle. I love this because it looks so unstable through some of these corners.
Indeed. I personally think Davide should do a full season at FS2. I think he'd stand a very good chance of winning that championship, was to do so. Or at least he'd be a contender. And out of the final corner he comes. It's going to be close. Will it be Zanini? And Davide Zanini wins the first of 2 races in this particular best of 3 with a 47.6. So not a bad lap time there at second time around. Little slower than we saw in the last race. Of course, lower stakes, so that is to be expected.
Yeah, it compares pretty well though. He was only about a tenth or 2 off of what I believe Luke Maguire was doing earlier on. Oh dear. There we go, off he goes. So I guess he's going to get to do a round 2 just to seal the deal. But as we see, looks like That Luke Mitchell coming onto the server now as well. So I
Yes.
guess Zanini only had to do the one run then. So I think we're getting ready for round 6 then, which is seed number 13, Luke Mitchell, versus seed number 20, Luke Munier. So FS2 champion versus one of our top FS1 drivers.
Yeah, and I'm seeing confirmation on the sheet now that Davide Zanini gets an automatic bye to round 2, having completed one of the races. So yes, Luke Mitchell out there now, the 13th seeded driver, having done very well. Actually won Formula Sprint 2 championship this year. So a real contender. This one is Luke Mitchell, having won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 races in FS2. That is 9 out of 32, and having won the championship by a massive 153 points. You can't really say more than that. So Luke Mitchell will be out there alongside Loric Munier. And remember earlier on, Luke actually predicted that Loric will beat him in this race somehow. He seems to be betting against himself for whatever reason. And it only takes you looking at their results to realize that this actually could be quite a close one. Loric Munier scored a podium earlier this year in Super Lights, only did 3 rounds in the Super Lights Championship. He was in the top 10 in all 3 races, and he was 3rd in Japan. He also scored a podium in FS1 this year, in race 2 at Germany. So yes, Loric Munier is a force to be reckoned with, as competitive as we know Luke Mitchell to be. This could actually be a pretty darn close race, Ed.
Yeah, and I've got slightly split loyalties here because both of these, Luke Mitchell and Loric Munier, have driven for my team in the past, and both of them are good friends of mine. So yeah, of course, Luke Mitchell, extremely competitive, and I did joke sort of. It's not really a joke because it actually happened, but there was a race that Luke Mitchell did for me this year at Brands. Actually, he won. But I told there was a whole rule about the tire choices, which race you get to use the soft tire in touring cars in this particular championship, and I said the wrong one to the organisers. So Luke Mitchell lost a win because of me. And Loric Munier also used to drive for me in the same team, actually, and both of them have won quite a few races for me. And Munier, most notably for Loric Munier, he actually competed in FSR Pro this season and won his first race in Montreal, actually, beat Victor Ivanov, who was the eventual champion by quite a long way. So it's actually been a pretty good year for both of these guys, even though in terms of GPV, it certainly looks like Mitchell and FS2 had such a dominant run. So yeah, like you say, it's going to be very close between the pair.
So Luke Mitchell is in the red car on the left lane, Loric Munier is in the blue car in the right lane. It's such a quick fire event, this race of champions. It's one race into the next, and here we go as the red lights illuminate, and off we go once again, and it's a better start for Munier. Munier gets away well, right hand side. They head into the first corner. Luke Mitchell underneath the track of Loric Mitchell. Loric Munier, my apologies. God, it's LM on both sides, isn't it? But Luke Mitchell is the driver that we're watching now as he heads through the hairpins. It's important to clip the second apex of that one. That one's much more important than the first apex. Again, the car sparks through the... I'd be worried about my splitter getting damaged if I was doing that lap after lap. It's a good job it's such a short race, Ed.
Yeah, you're not going to need it for too long, of course. But yeah, look at Luke Mitchell just starting to gain a bit more confidence now, drifting out a little bit more, a little bit conservative in the entry to the tunnel there, but he drifts out into the sunlight once more. But he is behind Loric Munier, crucially, and behind by just over a second then.
Yeah, basically 1.1 seconds between them, with Loric Munier getting that better start at the beginning. Oh, he clonks the barriers though. He clonks the barriers. Now that mistake might not be worth a second, but it could be the start of something. Gotta keep it clean now. He heads out towards the line, but there's one more lap to go, or half a lap, I suppose you could say. He goes under the bridge once more, and past those massive sausage curves that helped Jack Mayer get air earlier on. You see the smoke rising from the tail of that car. This is brilliant. Stadium racing. He's just got right-handers to go now. Does Munier win the first of these races? Yes, he does, and it's convincing. He wins the first race by 1.3 seconds over Luke Mitchell, just as Luke predicted he would.
Yeah, and Moynier in that second lap, 47.5, so just a tenth quicker than we just saw Davide Zanini do in his second lap. But yeah, 47.7 actually from Luke Mitchell. So it was the first lap where the damage was really done there. And even with that wall hit, Moynier sort of bounced off it and just continued on. So it didn't seem to affect him too much, but potentially he could have gone even quicker.
Absolutely, and he might go even quicker because, of course, he's got another chance. We go again almost immediately for the second of potentially 3 races here. So Munier this time will take the left-hand side, Mitchell will take the right-hand side, and they've got to do it all over again to determine who goes through to this round of 16. And 1.2 seconds is definitely not unachievable. Remember, this is a 2-lap event. So if you can gain maybe 0.6 per lap on a track like this, that's absolutely doable. If you can just be a little bit cleaner, the opponents, you've got to remember, none of these drivers know this track particularly well because it's not one that's often raced. And yeah, you really can't be complacent and say that Munier has got this, having picked up the first victory, because he's got to do it again, and he's got to do it by the same amount quicker. Here we go then. We'll wait for the red lights, and when they illuminate, we'll be ready for the start of the second of 3 races in this bracket.
Yeah, lights coming on now then, so Luke Mitchell is really going to have to pull out something special here because he is behind at the moment. Lloyd Moynier again gets the slightly superior getaway, but it's neck and neck, 8 thousandths between the pair then as they set off, Caitlin.
The Super Lights podium finisher versus the Sprint 2 champion. Around the corners they go, touching the apexes. That beautiful 4-wheel drift there from Lloyd Moynier. You can tell it's a good one because you can see the car sliding. You don't see the smoke being kicked up into the air. You see the sparks though, that's absolutely fine. Every car does that into that corner. And Lloyd Munier is driving like a pro here through the right-hander. That counts. He was well and truly on the curb, but he wasn't over it, so he's still within the track limits. The only thing you can't do is purposefully and deliberately cut corners. And Munier is ahead, but this time only by 0.7 of a second. That is still achievable for Luke Mitchell here. So Munier's got to keep it clean. Both of these drivers very fast, but Mitchell, I think, a little wide there. He's going to kick the tail out, trying to get the car back onto the line. That could cost him a couple of tenths of a second. I think Munier's got this now. Can't see what he's doing, but if he's done as well as his first lap, he should have this. So across the line we go.
21.6
one more time.
for Lloyd.
Yeah, much better. Much better for Lloyd Munier. I think he's going to do this here. And out of another hairpin we go. Sorry, it looked like the final corner there. I was ready to call him across the line, but now they've got to do it again. And it looks as if Lloyd Munier touches the wall, but does go through. And this time, the gap is 1.1 seconds. So Lloyd Munier wins both races of this matchup, just as Luke Mitchell said that he would. He will progress to the round of 60.
Yeah, it was interesting, that sort of downhill banked left-hander. Luke Mitchell carried a little bit too much speed, and that was what made him go a bit wide for the sort of infield section and put him off. Moynier only set 47.7 that time around, so it looks like he was pushing, taking a lot more risks in that second round, and knowing he just about had the pace, even if he wasn't quicker than before, to hold Luke Mitchell at bay. So that shows that Moynier had a lot of confidence there.
It must be so disheartening getting out of the groove, because there is really only one line around this circuit. And if you get out of that groove and you find yourself losing tenths, then you have to think, it's such a short race, I can't get that back. And
certainly in the Alpine, there's only one line, but we'll see when we get to the other cars tomorrow. It could be a different matter entirely.
That's true. I'm looking forward to the stock car for sure. I very much hope that that car's used before too long. So there we go. That was Luke Mitchell versus Lloyd Munier. Next of all, we look to 2 young challengers who are kind of joint meme lords within the GPVWC community, always trying to outdo each other with the S posting and all of that. But beneath all of that jokery, they are very good drivers. I can say that because I've raced both of them. Owen, of course, has come into this round with the 5th seed, having won the Super Light Championship this year, and he wrapped it up several rounds early as well. In fact, didn't even bother showing up to the last 3 rounds of the championship, but still won by 38 points. He actually won 8 of the 13 races that he contested, 8 of the 16 that were held overall, and then of course went on to Super League, where Owen scored 2 podiums in fact, from only 7 races that he participated in. Also scored the fastest lap in 2 races, and it's that kind of speed that is going to carry him through in this championship. Matthias Pissan, on the other hand, a little less experienced potentially, comes in here as the underdog, but of course has had some success in points in his FS1 debut this year, when he did a couple of outings in that championship, but also won the first race in both his career and Reading Games career in Formula Sprint 2, when he won from pole in race 2 at Monza. That was in the FS2 championship, and he was 15th in the FS2 championship overall. He was also on the podium in Saudi Arabia. So Pissan has potential, but is it Magorgi overcoming potential? Well, we will have to find out in just a few moments' time.
Yeah, and we believe Pissan is having a little bit of trouble getting into the server at the moment, so Magorgi is just waiting for him presently. Let's hope we don't have a repeat of Adam Maguire's issues earlier. But Pissan actually said in the chat earlier, when you were saying Zanini could become FS2 champion, he was like, Zanini FS2 champion, what? And I imagine that's because Matthias sees himself as the future FS2 champion. And
no, he followed that up with Super Lights at least, so he's actually bigging up Zanini there, saying, I think he can do even better.
I mean, that's very true. I think Zanini has a lot of untapped potential there. So I'm sure Davide will be pleased to hear that. He's certainly not had the most challenging race of champion so far, I think it must be said, although I'm sure when he faces Munier tomorrow, he's going to have a much bigger challenge than he did today. But nonetheless, that extra practice will go to good use. But Magorgi, Pissan, both of them pretty good qualifiers, but Magorgi, after his Super Lights campaign, you got to think, whatever you put him in as well, Magorgi always seems to wring the neck of it. So I think Owen has probably got to be the favourite going in, and Matthias is just going to hope that some mistakes creep in that enable him to take advantage.
Yes, indeed. Now we are slightly ahead of schedule. As a result, races going faster than expected. Zanini, of course, ended up being given a bye on his matchup with Adam Maguire, so that's a round that was a lot quicker than expected. And Mitchell versus Munier did not go to a 3rd race, so instead we may have to wait a little while just for the Magorgi versus Pissan matchup. But that's okay. If they do show up sooner rather than later, then that is absolutely fine, but otherwise we've got to wait until 8 just to make sure that it's fair, and we're not saying they haven't shown up or anything when they were just a little ahead of schedule. But yes, Owen Magorgi, of course, is by far the favourite coming into this one, but that's not saying anything negative in the way of Matthias Pissan. Being his teammate in Formula Sprint 2 this year, I have to admit I was almost baffled by his pace from time to time. There were definitely drivers quicker, but having been in the same team, driving with the same setups and things like that, I have no idea how he was still pulling out maybe a second or two at some circuits, but that's how some drivers do, and Matthias Pissan has even more potential than we've seen from him so far. Absolutely sure of that. He is seed number 28, being one of the invitational drivers in the Challengers section. And of course, Owen Magorgi, seed number 5, having qualified as being the Super Light champion. Owen Magorgi's season very much reminded me of Liam Duval's Super Lights campaign from a couple of years ago, where Duval absolutely romped his way to 10 wins in a row back in 2020, and ended up not even bothering with the rest of the championship, because why should he? And Owen Magorgi very much took a leaf out of his book, was like, right, I'm going straight to Super League. Screw you guys, I'm off.
And it wasn't Liam Duval in Race of Champions last year. I believe he finished 3rd overall. Just missed out, I think, it was either Denahan or Grankvist in this. I think it was Grankvist who beat him in the semi-finals then. So yeah, Liam Duval certainly. I think there's a bit of a joke we go around calling him Liam demotivated, but when he is absolutely on form, he is then forced to be reckoned with. It's just getting him into these races in the first place. Interesting little, as we see, Pissan has shown up, so we're about to get going. Last 4 rounds, if we don't count Maguire being Joe Gillette, as it's been the lower seeded driver that's beaten the higher seeded driver then. So let's see if we can make it 5 in a row with Pissan, but I think Magorgi is keen to break that streak and make it 2 higher seeds in after Denahan earlier.
That's very true, and realistically the seeding doesn't really mean anything. I mean, is 1st place in Super Light really a lower position than 4th place in Super League? Well, that's debatable. And the same goes for the challengers, the drivers in who qualified for this round. Potentially, as we see the lights coming on for this race, so turn our attention to Pissan versus Magorgi. So Pissan's in the red car, is in the blue car, and they head into the first corner. What I was going to say is that realistically, I would rank the drivers who qualified for this race higher than the invitational drivers, because they had to prove that they were fast at this layout before they were even given an entry. So to be honest, I think that matters more.
Yeah, well, certainly it's pretty evenly matched off the line as we look at Mateusz Pissan just going underneath the cavern and getting as close to the wall as he can before the second part of the banked corner there. It is lovely to see how many risks the drivers take even at this early stage. He's a little bit conservative over the curb there compared to some of the lines we've seen as he goes right into the tunnel, understeers a little bit but gets it back under control, bursts back into the sunshine, but he is behind by Magorgi by 1.1 seconds then, so not unrecoverable, but Magorgi has really turned the wick up.
A big slide heading into the corner, but that may have been intentional judging the line in the end. So Magorgi has the lead heading towards the final quarter of the race. Out of that final turn he goes, but he's still got half a lap in order to be classified as the race winner. So he's got to keep it under control now. We're looking at, wow, look at that, rear tyres smoking. He was a little slow on the
drifting
apex
really early as well.
Goodness me, he's really treating this like a drift track. I mean, give them drift cars and this would be quite a spectacle. And out of the final corner he goes, and Magorgi has wrapped it up. So Magorgi there wins the first of races by 1.7 seconds. First of 2 races that he needs to win, of course. There is potentially 3 races, but Magorgi gets through in this particular round, and now they will have to do it all over again with Magorgi on the other side of the grid, and Pissan, of course, starting on, I think, the right-hand side.
Yeah, 47.3 in lap 2 for Magorgi, 47.8 for Pissan. So they're not too dissimilar from each other, but Magorgi has a distinctive edge there. And yeah, people are going to be watching his lap times with interest then, especially Frank Hamming and David Wasserman, who one of which is going to have to face him tomorrow.
We should have expected Magorgi to be so aggressive driving style, usually, and when he corners like that, when he drifts, that is absolutely beautiful stuff. I really think that we should have given them drift cards for this. I think that would be quite
or at least like radicals or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't really drift a radical. It's more like
I think Magorgi
aerodynamic grid. That's true. Magorgi would beg to differ. Well, we'll see that tomorrow, won't we? Because the round of 16 will be held with the radical. Is it the SR3 they're doing it with? So that should be fun. Yes, it's the SR3 RSX, which is a beautiful, beautiful car that handles amazingly. So definitely make sure you tune in for that one tomorrow. But we've still got plenty of racing to go today, with Magorgi versus Pissan heading into the second of 3 races. Here we go then. The light's getting ready to go out, and off we go. It's a fairly even chance, faster potentially in the red car. We look to Magorgi again as he picks up where he left off in terms of the drifting and the curb hopping. This is very much Owen Magorgi's start driving, And so I think this is very much Magorki's style of circuit, for the hairpins and the double apex corners, just like that one. I think this is a place that suits him absolutely perfectly, and really he has to be one of the contenders for the overall win. But first, of course, he's got to overcome Matthias Pissan. Through the left-hander he goes, into a right-hander. That's where Mayo got up on 2 wheels earlier on. He's very much on the limit there of, well, the track limits, of course, but I think still kept a win on the curb. And then heading across the line he goes. First lap was 8/10 faster, so still not done and dusted just yet as he drifts the car out, gets it over the grass. He was very sideways heading into that corner. I hope he held it, but I think he probably did. Matthias Pissan,
even with the drifts, he looks so neat and tidy, doesn't he, Magorki? And Pissan looks like he's just chasing his tail that little bit here to try and catch up. Magorki sets another 21.6 in the middle sector there. That's very impressive. Pissan just marginally behind again, 25.4 on this half of the circuit. So there we go, and just about getting a little bit offline as he touches the grass there. So Pissan's trying to carry as much speed as he can get away with, but I think he can sense it slipping away from him here.
And he saw the correction midway through the corner. That has given Owen Magorki victory here by 1.3 seconds. So Owen Magorki will progress to the round of 16 with one of the most impressive runs we've seen so far from a spectacle point of view, and a 47.202 is his time. Very nicely done.
Yeah, I think Denahan the only one to get into the high 46s so far. But Magorki wasn't far off, and especially if he keeps drifting like that, he's got every chance of doing it. But Pissan, I think, performed very, very admirably there, but it was always going to be a little bit tricky to beat Magorki when he's in that kind of form.
So Magorki goes through, and we look ahead to our next race. It's going to be Frank Hamming versus David Wasserman here. Now Hamming progresses as a result of being 4th in the FS1 championship this season. He didn't win a race by the look of it, but did score several podium finishes. He was 2nd in a race at Australia, Singapore, and also Japan, and ended up amassing quite a tally of points at the end of it, which puts him through. And David Wasserman was kind of all over the place over the course of the season. Did 6 Super League races, scoring points with a 13th place finish at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. He also raced in Super Lights. He was 5th backed at Abu Dhabi in that championship. He did FS1, where he was, let me check his results on that one. He actually finished, he had a 6th, 7th place finish at the last round in that championship, not bad at all. And he also did Formula Sprint 1, where he won the last round of the championship in Sao Paulo. So he actually did 4 different categories of the career ladder this year. He really was a jack of all trades, or David of all trades in this case. And he goes up, of course, against Frank Hamming, who I previously mentioned.
Yeah, Frank Hamming, I think, wasn't the best qualifier in FS1, but his racecraft was really, really strong. He was always able to cut through the field and end the races better than where he started. But like you say, just denied that way. I think Singapore race 2 stands out as the one that got away, where I think it got taken away from him post-event as well. Wasserman, I actually talked to Maxime Boulier, who Wasserman narrowly beat on the final lap in Sao Paulo in the final FS2 round of the year in those wet conditions, and he was still annoyed that David Wasserman beat him because he felt he had that one otherwise. But yeah, Wasserman, I don't want to say journeyman, but he's certainly someone who, like you say, has been everywhere, has been competitive everywhere, and you can never really discount him. So I think it's going to be close, but I think Frank Hamming may be up against it a little bit here because Wasserman just has been very impressive this year.
Yeah, and whoever wins this one will have to face Owen Magorki in the round of 16, which of course is an intimidating prospect, but that is a problem for tomorrow, of course, and a problem for the Radical. Of course, a different car might change absolutely everything, but we've got to wait and see. So we are now just waiting for Hamming and Wasserman to take to the circuit. Looking at the times, we're ahead of schedule once again. Which is always better than being behind schedule, of course, but it does mean that we might have to wait a little while. Thank you all for being so active in the YouTube chat. It's been very entertaining to see all of your comments, whether they're serious or banter. It's good to have a good balance of all of that, of course. Mateus Pissan absolutely spamming the chat right now, but that is okay. Ed, do you remember who Aviation Chad is? Because is it Fillo?
I think it's Krista's, yeah.
Krista's Fillo. Yes,
Yeah.
Vince. Okay, thank you.
Confirmation from Vincent then, who's more familiar than me.
Sorry, so all of that to say, hi Christus, welcome in. Good, I very much enjoyed our battle in the Young Drivers test the other day. It was quite something. We were fighting basically the whole way through to not be at the bottom of the timing sheet, and then of course went side by side a few times in the silly races at the end as well. Very glad Christus was there actually. Made a fool of myself, but anyway. That's all said in the lightest of parts, of course, Christus. I know that you're a lot more competitive than you showed on that particular day. But anyway, here we go to the grid then. Looks as if David Vasan appeared and then disappeared, but he should be coming back any second. There he is. So Vasan will be on the left in the red car. Hamming will be on the right in the blue car. Here come the lights then, and we get going any second now. And it is go for the 8th of our 16 races of the day. They head into turn 1, Hamming with a slightly better start, going through the tunnel and over the bridge.
That's not what the timing screen says, Caitlin. It says Vasan with a better start.
Okay, interesting. Look how tight Hamming was taking it over the curb there. Did he keep a wheel on the curb? I think he might just have done.
Yeah, I think it looked pretty stable to me, but he was certainly pushing. So I think Frank Hamming's certainly feeling the pressure and getting a little bit of a slow run out of the tunnel there, but he gets himself set up well for the infield. They're not sliding anywhere near as much as we saw some of the other drivers doing. So he's certainly just trying to go for the safer lines here and keep it together in this first round. But he is drifting a little bit more then for the final corner, and they emerge side by side there. So end of lap 1, 51.6 for Vasan, 51.7 for Frank Hamming. So just a 10th in it.
Oh, it's a good race. This could go either way. Look, drifting Vasan as he gets wheels on the grass there. Maybe a little over rotation through the hairpin. He comes out to start another half lap of the race. David Vasan across the line, over the bridge, through to the left-hander. And keeping an eye on the timing screen, this still could go either. This is brilliant stuff from the two of them. David Vasan hooks it up for the second part of that particular hairpin. Goes to the left. Through the tunnel. A beautiful shot. Little overcorrection. Little overcorrection, and he goes very tight. I think this might just go the way of Vasan. Oh, it's so close. And Vasan gets it just by 1/10 of a second. Fantastic stuff. A very close race. And David Vasan has the edge going into the second race. But in the closest matchup that we've had so far, who knows what's going to happen in the second one.
Yeah, it was Sector 2 there that really sealed it on that second lap for Vasan, 21.5. So it was a 10th quicker than Hamming through the same section, I believe. So yeah, but you saw even when he got on the grass there, that compromised his apex for the second hairpin because he was just carrying that little bit too much speed. So yeah, it was really on the edge there, and Frank Hamming so nearly stole that one away from him.
Absolutely. So we head again into, well, basically a repeat of what we just saw, but from the other side of the grid. So Hamming will now be on the left, and Vasan will now be on the right. This is, of course, the 8th matchup of 16, so we're halfway through the action that we have for you today. And then, of course, tomorrow we will have 16 more races, which will determine the remainder of the competition, and of course will determine the final order. So now, of course, we just have to wait to see who will go through to face Owen Magorgi. Like I said, Hamming on the left and Vasan on the right, and either of these guys could do so. Did you see what the final lap time was for the two of them? I wasn't paying attention.
I believe it was, wasn't it high to mid 47s for both of them?
That would make a lot of sense, yeah. So here we go again then. And the lights go out. And importantly, Vasan gets a slightly better start yet again, just about heading into the first corner, just ahead of Frank Hamminghead.
Yep. A little bit of contact with the wall there for Vasan as he gets as wide as he can to maximise his entry into the banked hairpin there. But it was 4.5 for Vasan in Sector 1 split, 4.6 for Hamming. So Hamming was a tiny bit more conservative on the clutch. There's the Vasan goes right into the apex wall then. That's going to hurt his exit ever so slightly here. So Hamming could well be taking advantage. 21.6 for Hamming in Sector 2 then. But 25.7 for Vasan. So let's see how they compare in Sector 3 through the same pieces of track.
These are expensive cars, guys. You don't want to damage them. Here we go towards the end of this first time around. Oh, it's so close. Yet we've got another massive race in our hands. Vasan just ahead. Hamming just ahead, sorry.
Hamming, yes.
51.
So Hamming had a better Sector 3 there. And oh, look at the way he's drifting out. Much more than before, Caitlin.
Brilliant stuff. This could go either way. Yet again, he really is drifting. He's taking from the Owen Magorgi school of driving. Across the line he goes onto another lap over the bridge. The left-hander, sparks flying. His first few sectors of the lap yet again pretty darn quick. And out through the hairpins he goes. Oh, and just like in the first race, takes it so tight, basically cuts the corner. And now we're about to head to the line. Look how sideways he got. And it's Frank Hamming. It's Frank Hamming. So that means, of course, that we're going to go to a final round between the two of them. Vasan won the first, Hamming won the second. The gap between the two was just 1/10 of a second. Goodness me. Ed, this is too close to call.
It's almost exactly the same gap as it was in the first round between the pair. So 21.6 in Sector 2 there. So it was 47.5 in the end for Frank Hamming that just about won it there. But one apiece. Now we've got to go to the decider to see who gets to go through to the round of 16 to face Owen Magorgi. And Hamming really sort of brought it out of the bag there, I think, exactly when he needed to. And Vasan, I think, maybe made a mistake that we didn't see there, but it was a very tiny one if so. And now I think we're going to see them take a lot more risks, and one of them may indeed come a cropper if they push that a little bit too hard.
Well, this is exciting. This means that the tiniest of mistakes is going to declare this one way or the other. It's such a short race that you can't afford to be anything other than perfect. So Vasan once again will start from the left. Hamming once again will start from the right, and this is the decider to see who through to fight Owen Magorgi in tomorrow's radical round. So we wait again for this one. Take a deep breath, because over the next minute or so, we're not going to be breathing much, Ed.
Yeah, Christus Villo says in the chat, well, he says, because he knows he's up next against Tom Stevens. He says, oh, I hope Tom Stevens isn't racing, because I think he remembers last year where Stevens made it to the semi-finals, I think. And somebody saying, oh, I hope he forgot, I think was his line. And someone said, no, I think he remembered.
Hope Stevens forgot, yes.
Yes, there we go. Because R's right next to T in the keyboard, QWERTY keyboard. But anyway, Frank Hamming there.
Have you not heard the Fagora memes? Oh my goodness, I love cheesy stuff.
I've heard of them, but prefer not to think of it during commentary. But
okay,
anyway,
well, he's on the lights. And for the third time, off we go. So, Hamming slightly slower there than Vasan. Vasan gained maybe a 10th, and we've seen in the first couple of races that a 10th is all that they need, so that might be it. No, it's definitely not it yet. Look at the way that Frank Hamming is pushing through the hairpin, through the other hairpin. Oh, it's a bit of a twitch on the exit. That was not the line that we saw him taking the first two races. I was not expecting that, but he's kept it under control. Now he gets sideways again through the final turn of the lap. He's got another half lap to go before it actually counts as a lap, of course. Very confusing.
25.3 in Sector 2 there, so that's his personal best through that section then. But Vasan is flying too, 21.4 in Sector 2, his own Sector 2, I should say. But yeah, it's going to be nip and tuck between the pairs. Hamming gets as wide as he can, hits the wall. Oh, and that gives a definite advantage to David Vasan.
They were going to cross the line pretty much side by side there, but he touched the barriers and ended up losing out as a result. So Vasan the line 0.3 ahead of Frank Hamming. And now it's all about this final lap. Can Wasserman keep up that momentum? We're watching him now. He goes across the line for another half lap through the left-hander with the sparks flying. And once again, David Wasserman has the advantage, just as he did in the first round of 3. That was a little better through the hairpin, but a little understeering. A little bit understeering. I really should name these hairpins rather than just call them the hairpin. So who's it going to be? It is David Wasserman across the line. Hamming, I think, must have made another mistake on that last lap because he ended up 3.1 seconds back. So David Wasserman will advance to the round of 60 after by far the closest matchup that we've had so far. Congratulations, and a very fast time as well, 47.1. Not bad at all.
No, not bad at all. He's getting close to that Denahan benchmark from earlier. But yeah, you saw Frank Hamming. Once he made that mistake hitting the wall, that final sector was 2 seconds slower than it really should have been compared to his first set of times. So yeah, did very, very well actually to get to go to the final round. But Hamming wasn't quite able to keep it together, and that really handed it to Wasserman, who now is going to have challenge in the form of Mogi. But our attention shifts then to the next round. That's going to be Tom Stevens versus Christos Fillo.
So Tom Stevens was second in the Super League Championship this year, missed out tragically on a final round championship decider with Jake Denahan as a result of a crash at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, but even so, won 4 races this season, was ultimately extremely convincing and consistent. He only finished outside of the top 5 in the championship on 1 occasion all year, which is absolutely amazing stuff, and really puts him amongst the higher ranks of the GPWC championship. Christos Fillo made a couple of outings in Super Lights this year, finished 1 race in 22nd position, although was a little more active in the lower categories. In Formula Sprint 1, his best result was a 12th place finish, and actually that appears to be all that he's done, but he also raced in the Super League Young Drivers Test just a couple of days ago, where he had a very close fight with me to not be last. I say that with the utmost respect, of course, knowing well that I'm not the best driver in a modern single-seater. But yes, Christos Fillo, obviously better than me because he was actually able to score points in Formula Sprint 1 Championship and drove half a season in that in total, so has the momentum from that to ride off of. But even so, Tom Stevens is quite the competitor and will be a tough nut to crack for sure.
Oh, for definite, Caitlin, because Tom Stevens put in a very, very strong Super League season and helped THR secure that team's championship in Interlagos, of course, with that brilliant win in the finale against Denahan. So certainly Tom Stevens will be hoping to replicate his race champions form from last season, where he got to the semi-finals before, I think, being beaten by Denahan, funnily enough. So yes, Fillo is the first man he has to beat if he wants to replicate that. But Christos certainly has something to prove. He didn't sound too confident going in, but I think he's certainly going to try and put pressure on Tom Stevens into making a mistake, because I think that's his best chance here. I think in terms of pure speed, Fillo might not have just enough in the tank, especially we saw how much Frank Hamming got. As much as he got close to Wasserman, even he struggled when he was starting to take a few more risks as well. So I think Fillo certainly might be in a similar boat here.
So that is the halfway point in tonight's action. And now we have 8 more rounds, 8 more matchups for you over the rest of the evening. Of course, Stevens versus Fillo, Stylin versus Andre, Pum versus Latinen, Fric versus Oken, Schutter versus Hangraf, Riboli versus Lahu, Platt versus Kurashaban, and Martin versus Shukes. Each one of those could be a close affair, but this one between Stevens and Fillo is a real David versus Goliath competition. But like I said earlier, the Race of Champions is not going to be won on paper, and never will be, and for good reason too, because it's a completely unique style of racing. It's very different to the career ladder, and who knows who's going to come out on top. So Tom Stevens will be starting on the left-hand side of the grid, that light blue car, and Christus Fillo will be starting on the right-hand side of the grid in the red car, and they will go at it at least twice, possibly 3 times around, depending on how this works. And they get underway as soon as those red lights go out, Ed.
Indeed they do, and Stevens then will be looking to launch away from the line and try and seal this as early as possible. And Fillo has got to pull out something special to put a stop to him. And indeed he does so. Look at that.
It's a much better start for Christus Fillo there. He was ahead down to turn 1. So
2 attempts already in that first split.
Indeed. Keeping it close to the walls. That was a good line through there, actually. And a little understeery through the second of those 2 hairpins, but still pretty speedy. I'm impressed by the action I'm seeing from Christus Fillo. Of course, it's very difficult to tell just how fast someone is until you see the lap times come in. But even so, Christus Fillo is looking clean at this point in time. Does kick up a little grass though. Now, whatever happens here with Tom Stevens, we all know that it's not going to matter in the end, because what really matters is GPWC Day, where I'm going to beat him finally. Tom Stevens across the line, just ahead of Christus Fillo by just under a tenth of a second. This is very close stuff here onto the second lap.
And look at Stevens drifting a lot more than Fillo.
Indeed. Towards that second apex of the corner, we've seen people clipping both inside and the outside barriers through there. Stevens avoids both, but uses all of the track nonetheless.
21-2 in sector 2 for Stevens.
This is going to be so close. Stevens kicks out the rear.
Sector 2 for Fillo. He's a couple of attempts down.
Yeah, but that sector 2, remember, is different on both laps. That's the one that's really different. And Stevens out of the final corner will go through, win the first of the 3 races here by 1.1 seconds. Still a relatively close one in the grand scheme, and I'm very much looking forward to a purple
sector 3.
Yeah, very true.
Sector 2 that really did it for him. 25.7. It was 25.4, I think, in his first run. So yeah, that was really where Fillo lost it there. He was a second down in the end.
He can still absolutely bring this back, Chris does. That was quite a run that we saw from him, despite Tom Stevens being slightly faster.
Yeah, that good start really kept him in contention there, and I think that would have boosted his confidence too, seeing Stevens just that little bit behind him as well.
So we head to the second of the 3 races. Christus Fillo will be left-hand side of the grid. Stevens will be on the right, and they're about to go again. This race here is the second versus the 31st seed. That's why I was saying it was a real David versus Goliath competition. But this, if nothing else, will show you just how little the seeds matter just by how close these 2 were in that first race. And it is not over yet. We've still got this second race to come. So the lights now. We wait for the lights, and when they go out, we will be doing it all over again. Tom Stevens.
Shame this drone camera means we can't see the lights.
That's very true, yeah, very true. The way this championship has been set up is very clever, actually. It's done in a way so it's not just the first seed match followed by the second seed match followed by the third seed match, etc. As the lights come on and get ready to go off, and away we go once again. And it's a much more even start, but again it looks as if Fillo is ahead going towards turn 1. But yes, as I was saying, it's not just, you know, first seed followed by second seed followed by third seed. That means, of course, it's been done in a way where it could end up being first seed versus second seed in the final. It could end up being first versus fourth.
Stevens just drifting over the curbs there. It looked like he really had a big oversteer moment as well over the banking too. So Stevens really up against it here. He knows he's bogged down that little bit at the start and he's absolutely pushing to try and make up that almost straight lining the little chicane there, and then full on drifting there with the hairpin. Spectacular.
I don't think we saw him doing that the first time around, but that is the Owen McCorkey line.
He certainly practiced for it.
Oh, look how close he got to that wall, but controlled it on the brakes. That was beautiful stuff. And he leads the first lap by 0.6 of a second. So Christus Fillo has some time to make up, but it is doable. Oh, he's a little wide into that hairpin correction partway through the corner. I think the ball is in Tom Stevens' court now.
Yeah, absolutely. Fillo knows that he's lost that advantage that he had at the start, and getting that drift wrong has really hurt him. 21.6 in the middle sector there. Again, a slightly poor part of the track for him, whereas Tom Stevens 25.0. That's a pretty good time for the second half of the track then. So now it's just the final half to go through the tunnel, and it's actually quite slow through the tunnel, is Fillo. So that's not going to help him at all as they come towards the line, and there is Stevens.
Wait, he's given it to Fillo. Fillo has just taken that victory by 44 thousandths of a second, because Stevens, well, he either decided to give it to him so they could have a third race, or he's tried to show off and make a photo finish and failed at it. But yes, Fillo did actually cross the line ahead then. They will have to go to a third race. I think that's probably what Tom Stevens intended there, but my goodness, that was close.
Whether that was intended generosity or just accidental, I think Fillo won't care one jot, will he?
I think Tom wanted to panic us by making a photo finish or something. Make it so that they... I mean, if they had...
final lap for Fillo, actually. 47.3, actually, in the end.
Yeah, I mean, if they had tied, surely that means... I mean, surely that means that it's possible for drivers to draw after the best of 3. Although, I guess if that was to be the case, then it might come down to best.
It would have to tie down to 3 decimal places, though. This isn't Ref 97, Caitlin. So it won't happen.
That's true. Realistically, though, I think Tom just wanted to have a little bit of fun there, and fun he shall get, because they'll have to go for it once again. And that was very much like Indianapolis 2002. Michael Schumacher backing off, accidentally giving Rubens Barrichello the win while trying to simulate a dead heat. And
incredibly, only Formula One's second worst incident at Indianapolis involving the 2 Ferraris.
yes, indeed.
Anyway,
so here we go again
Stevens, then. If anything, Stevens is going to feel even more confident after that, because he absolutely had Fillo on the end of a string there before that happened.
Yeah, that's true, but like, if that was just down to a mistake from Fillo, and if he still has the pace to challenge Stevens like he did in the first race, this could still be
Stevens
a close
could rue this, you're right.
God, can you imagine? That would...
it would be quite funny.
It would be, but it would also knock quite a considerable contender out of this competition very early on, and it would ultimately shape the way that the bracket ends up looking. But here we go. We wait for the red lights, and they illuminate now. And for one final time, Stevens versus Fillo gets underway, and once again, Fillo gets the better start. He's done that in all 3 of the races here. He was about 2 tenths up as they passed the first sector split, which I think is the start-finish line. Fillo a little ragged over the bridge. It's very bumpy around there. The track undulates.
Couldn't carry as much speed as he wanted to, so he had to really get out of that and just back into the apex there. But it was an amazing start of 4.3 seconds to get to the first split. Whereas it took an extra 2 tenths for Stevens to arrive. 21.3 sector 2, that's not too bad for Stevens, that is. Versus Fillo set at 25.6, and again doesn't quite get the drift there. It's almost like he tried, it didn't give himself enough overspeed to really get the car rotated in time.
He clonked the wall there through the tunnel as well. Those second sector times are not comparative, they are very different, but there you go. And the gap's still relatively close though. Stevens by 6, almost 7 tenths of a second now. Always very sideways, but under control. Under control, just as we've seen from a previous course of the day. It seems that drifting is the way to go, actually. Denahan did it, Magorki did it, Stevens is doing it now. And of course, those 3 are the 3 to watch in this competition so far. Tom Stevens now over the bridge, a much straighter, straight like an arrow, his line through there, unlike Christos Fillo on the last time around. But it's still going to be close. Stevens through the tunnel. He's got 1 more corner to go. He's got to line it up well. This is a tricky one. Braking and turning, and Tom Stevens does go through. So despite forcing the hand and going to that third race, Tom Stevens goes through by 1.1 seconds, and it was an extremely fast time at the end, 46.86. That is brilliant stuff from Tom Stevens. Is that the fastest time we've seen so far, Ed?
I think it might be. I think that's almost equal with what Jake Denahan did.
I'm a bit confused actually, because on the Hot Laps board on the timing server, Pissan is registered as having done a 42.8, which is impossible. I stick my head out and say that. So he must have cut some corners somewhere or something along those lines. But anyway, so that means that Tom Stevens will go through as we expected. But a very valiant effort. Fillo deserves a round of applause. And now we see Lucas Stylin versus Darius Andre. Again, two young drivers going at it. These two are feisty and raced a good deal amongst themselves. Lucas Stylin this year, I'm going to pick up his results real quick. He's been doing some FS1. His best result in that was a 5th place finish, so not bad whatsoever. He also did some FS2 where he was 5th in the championship, and he actually has a win in that. He won the first race at Brazil. And then let's look to Darius Andre's results. Darius, I think, a former teammate of mine for like 1 or 2 races a long time ago. But yeah, definitely a force to be reckoned with at all times. Started 1 race in FS1, although unfortunately failed to finish that. And his main challenge this year appears to have been elsewhere, because that is his only recorded GPWC start of the year in any competition. So Darius very much coming back to GPWC for this race. And I think has he been doing FSR this year, Ed? You'd know that.
He did a part campaign in FSR with Visceral Esports, where he had a few good races actually. Although I seem to remember him having a difficult one in Montreal where he spent it. I remember he had a really good race in Spain before Carlos Martin crashed into him. I think his best finish may have been at Spa, I believe, where he finished 11th then, and against the World Championship field. That's no small feat. So yeah, a bit of a patchy season for Darius. Certainly not as good as his FS2 campaign, where he was the runner-up to Denahan a few years ago. But yeah, Darius has been around, has been putting in the laps, and I think I'll be eager to show what he can do.
Indeed. Welcome back to GPWC for Darius. And his best result of DNF does not sum up his potential by any means. And
I should say earlier, Caitlin, you did ask me if Tom Stevens' 46.8 was the fastest. No, Denahan set a 46.6 in the third and final round. Well, 46.694, so it's only just under 46.7, but still under nonetheless. And that's the time they're all going to be aiming to beat, I guess, if they can get a perfect lap in.
Although that's cheating somehow, because I didn't even know there was live timing at the point, so that doesn't count. I'm joking, of course. But yes,
we plan to start making up lap times if you really want, but I'm not sure people will appreciate that.
Of course. Welcome to Paul August Liner in the YouTube chat. Driver here saying Darius is the best, Darius the MVP, so I wonder who he's going to be supporting in this next race.
Not the most complimentary to Luca Filin, though.
No, I skipped over that comment, you might notice. Should be the president of GPWC. Okay, that's a bit of a step. But
do we have a president? Do we have elections in GPV?
No, I think we have a dictator. Will Panisi is, yeah, pretty much.
To be fair, it's sort of an organised dictatorship in FSR where Camerawork is coming back all the time. So
Darius Andre now will be starting on the left-hand side of your screen in the blue car. Lucas Stylin will be on the right in the red car. These two, I'm sure they've raced in the past. Of course, they won't have raced this year, but here we go. Red lights coming on and off they go. And a very equal start once again. Stylin maybe slightly faster, just of hundredths of a second, 100th of a second according to our timing screen there, and through the banking, a beautiful section of the course. I was looking in the YouTube chat earlier on from the trailer that we put out for this GPWC Race of Champions, and someone said I can't wait to see the radical over the banking, and to be honest, that's a very good shout. I can't wait to see that either. First half a lap completed there. Well, a little scrappy from Lucas Stylin, running wide through some still.
Yeah, it was. He didn't get the best travel over the curve just before the tunnel there. and almost looked like he hit the wall a little bit as well. He maybe just brushed against it, and again a little bit wide and exited the hairpin, although that hasn't hurt his momentum too much. He drifted out, but look at Andre, absolutely flying.
Yep, 7/10 up after the first lap, but he was a little sideways quite the line. But this has been a tremendous display of car control from pretty much every driver in this race of champions here today. No one has been out of control at any point, much except that one guy who propped the car up on its side.
Oh, you mean good old Joe Gillette, yeah?
Gillette,
but to be
yes,
fair,
indeed.
he was already out at that point. That was just for fun.
That is true. But yeah, brilliant display of car control, and it also is a good display of how good this car is, the Alpine A110. I recently visited the Alpine F1 factory. They had several of these parked outside. Beautiful as well as fast. And Darius Andre is the fastest of them all in this particular race. 2 seconds up on Lucas Stylin at the end.
Look at that.
His lap time was 47.078, which is very quick indeed. And that puts him well and truly in the driving seat heading into the second race.
Yeah, very, very impressive indeed. To be just above that 46 second sort of margin in the sort of 47 zeros. But yeah, Luca Violin has very much got his work cut out from Andre, picking up exactly really where he left off from last year's Race of Champions, where I believe he did. He was a bit unlucky to face Jake Denahan in the first round, but he was very, very competitive, if memory serves me well, and only narrowly got beaten by him.
Goodness, so he got knocked out in the first round last year. Well,
the first round was a round of 16. I can't remember. He didn't get too far in the tournament, but certainly like he had some really tough opponents, and Denahan was the one that knocked him out.
I'm afraid I didn't see the Race of Champions last year. I can't remember what I was doing. I was doing something important, but I can't remember what it was. But anyway, Jake Denahan is as tough an opponent to beat as anyone could be, so that would definitely explain why Darius Andre did not get through. And of course, if he does get through this time, then he'll face another tricky opponent in round 2, Tom Stevens, who is one of the favourites to win this, the second seeded driver. And so Darius will be heartened to see just how quick he actually is in this round, because that's what's going to matter against Tom Stevens tomorrow. I'm speaking as if he's already wrapped up his place in the round of 16, but he's got to do it again, of course. Stylin will be doing all that he can to stop him from getting through. So here come the lights, and away we go once again. Oh, and it's a slightly sluggish start from Darius Andre. Stylin is a car length ahead as they cross the start-finish time around. So Andre is now on the back foot.
Oh, there we go, and getting close to the wall once more to try and recover from that. Carrying a little bit too much speed, letting the rear drift out, but he keeps his momentum up crucially. And I find that's really what makes a difference here in the Race of Champions format, as he just tags the wall in the middle of the tunnel there, getting as wide as he can, and maybe a little bit too wide as he just about avoids the wall again over the start-finish line. But Andre now taking big risks to try and make up for lost time. Andre
now through the hairpin. Gets a decent exit, although his momentum is immediately arrested by the next hairpin. And towards another hairpin he goes, a hairpin right, and he's up again. So Darius Andre has managed to mitigate his loss from that poor start. He's almost a second up on Lucas Stylin now. So we look to Lucas Stylin's car, the red Alpine A100 GT4 Cup. And you can see there is a bit of a difference between their driving styles. Stylin is a little too placed. He's driving it very much.
Tell he's just not as confident with the drifting, because when he tried to drift there at the last corner, he just went straight into the wall almost.
He's driving it like an FS2 car, where you've got to follow a line and keep the car in check. But I'm afraid this is a slightly different style of racing, and that's why.
It's showing Darius Andre DNF, or has he crossed the line already?
You're absolutely right. Lucas Stylin is going to. Well, he's won that race, so somehow Darius Andre has not finished, and that means they're going to have to go to the next round. So Darius Andre romping away with that one. We'll have to go again. I don't think it was bizarre. A disconnection, because he's immediately back, isn't he?
Did Andre crash out then? He must have been pushing a little bit too hard. He might have done what...
I very much doubt. I don't think you're going fast enough to crash in this car. I don't think, even if you did hit the barrier, I don't think you couldn't just get the car to the line. So, unless he rolled it, did the full Joe Gillette, but that's an
bizarre,
interesting
though.
one.
Unfortunately, we're watching Stylin and not Andre at that moment, but yeah, we'll have to hope that somebody fills us in with what happened there.
Well, we're going again then. Sorry, what was that?
Ooh.
Ah, sorry, no, that's okay. Yeah, so we're going to go again. Looks as if Thylin will be on the left. Andre will be on the left and Thylin on the right for this next one. And this is the best of 3 format, so going again. Of course, that may just be another example of doing a Tom Stevens, deliberately throwing the second race to set up for a third race, but we're not entirely sure about that because we didn't see exactly what happened.
Yeah,
And
I
of
should
course, it might
apologise
be
for what I said earlier, by
too.
the way.
What's
Because I
that?
said last year, Andre got knocked out in the first either round of 32 or round 16. He actually made it all the way to the semi-finals before being beaten by Denahan. So I misremembered that completely. I remembered who knocked him out, but not when he got knocked out. Andre did very, very well last year.
Fair enough indeed. Okay, well, here he goes again from the left-hand side of the grid. Thylin about to join him. There he goes.
Is this a rerun then, or is this the final round?
No, this will be the final round. I mean, legitimately, Thylin did win that second race, despite Andre not having crossed the line. I mean, if you DNF, that doesn't, of course, invalidate the round. That just means that your opponent wins, by the way. So here we go for the third time now. Up towards the first corner. Andre slightly ahead now, and he's just got to do exactly what he did in that first race and what he was doing in that second race in order to go through to the round of 60.
Did you see how close he got to the wall there under the bridge? He just immediately drifted in at the highest speed possible. That was impressive bravery there. So Andre looks really fired up.
Indeed, across the bridge he goes, through the left hand, starts flying. I've just seen that Jan Grankvist is in the YouTube chat as well, so get well soon, Jan. Very unfortunate that you couldn't join us here today. I'm sure you're a real contender. But we're back to Darius Andre, as he's about to complete the first of the 2 laps. And this little slidey, but it looks to be a pretty good one. Much closer than the first 2 races though. The gap only 0.3 of a second as they cross the start-finish line. So Darius Andre still with the advantage, but this could still go either way. Wouldn't this be quite a recovery drive if Stein was to bring it back after everything that happened? I still think Andre has the edge.
Oh.
That's the great line from Thylin there. But he's still got to do one more time around.
Yeah, and that sector that Thylin went through, we also saw Andre really struggled to keep his momentum up through there. He sort of went a little bit wide on the sort of banked part, and then when he got to the infield was riding the curb and just sort of killed his momentum a little bit, and that's why they were so close when they crossed the line. Thylin now starting to drift out a little bit more to risk it, to try and come out ahead, and it's going to be just behind.
A very close race. Nearly 0.2 of a second. But Darius Andre does go through, but a round of applause there to Lucas Stylin. He really brought it back. He was much more confident in that third race. His second race, funnily enough, the one that he won was probably his least competitive three, but he really picked it up there for his third race. His driving style was so much more aggressive. That's what you need, and he very nearly took Darius Andre. So a really good race there between Darius Andre and Stylin. But it will be Darius Andre who faces Tom Stevens in round of 16. So now we move on. We've got Hao Pum, who qualifies as a result of being third in Super Lights, versus we have Yasi Latin, who is one of the invitational drivers at.
Yep, and he's certainly a popular one too. They're always the jokes in chat about Yasi Latin and supremacy, but certainly from his beginnings in Academy, he's really pressed on, won a few races in Academy this season, and has had that promotion to FS2 as well. Hao, for his part, has had a pretty strong year in Super Lights with TR Motorsports by Geeks Energy. His teammate, of course, to Dylan Platt he had a win taken away from him at Monza, but then won again later in the season. I forget exactly where. It was Sao Paulo, of course, in the final race of the season too, in those wet conditions where he just got the strategy absolutely spot on. Did Hygo? So yeah, he's certainly had a fair bit to shout about. And Yasi Latin, and I think will be very key. He's another one of those drivers really keen to prove himself, and I think Hygo Pum will be a good yardstick for him to test himself against. And who knows? I think certainly Yasi's capable of springing a surprise, but whether it goes his way or if he ends up just brushing the wall, pushing too hard to keep up with Hygo, remains to be seen. But this could be a close one, just like the one we saw between Fillo and Andre just now, which was a very, very good match, I have to say.
Indeed, and both of these drivers have won races this year. Latin won the first race in Germany in the series. He has, of course, done some Formula FS2 races with the best result of 8th. He actually did some FS1 races as well. At that last round in Sao Paulo, very well, a 6th place finish followed by a 7th place finish. So he was even better in FS1 than he was in FS2. And I think this could be another very close one. But as you said, Hygo Pum, also a race winner, won the Brazilian round of the SL2 championship. He's also, sorry, as I get the hiccups, he's also done some races in Super League with the best result of 12th this year at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, where he also scored the fastest lap, so got the fastest lap point for that as well. So Hygo, very quick driver. Latinen, up-and-coming driver, slightly unproven, but plenty of time to do so, especially today when he goes up against Hygo Pum.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is going to be very exciting to see who gets through to our 6th match in the round of 16 tomorrow, of course. So whoever wins here is going to face the winner between the next round, of course. Simon Frelick and Magnus Okenhaug still to come then, as we wait for the lights to be set on. On the
matchup.
right.
Sorry, I might have interrupted you there because you had a cut out a bit there, Ed, but we're about to set up for the 11th match of the day, and the red lights go off, so off we go now. Yasi Latin in the blue car. Every race now makes it very easy for us to tell them apart. It's a lot better for us as competitors, and I very much hope that they keep this up. So Latinen completing the first half lap of the race, 21.9, not a bad sector. Hygo Pum not bad on the other side of the track either, but it's really the second lap time that is the one that matters. The car oscillating sideways over the curve there for Yasi Latinen. This car has so much personality to it. It really is a delight to drive. And driving it slightly better on that first lap was Hygo, who leads by 1 second.
Yep, he's got that second advantage now. Sorry I cut out a bit there, not sure what will happen. But I think I fixed it now. As you see Hygo really Latin and just that tiny bit more tentative, still getting to grips with this car and track then. But Hygo now really starting to stretch his legs metaphorically, because the legs are of course attached to the brake and throttle pedals, but really traveling over those curves, really sliding it now into the final sector, and just having a lot of fun, isn't he?
That does look fun, goodness me, and he had the advantage to play with as well. So out to the final corner comes Hygo Pum, and he does win the first of the round of 3 by 2.4 seconds. So Hygo Pum has the advantage now heading into the second race. It was a 47.6, and Latinen now has it all to gain.
Yep, so Hygo is about a second off of the best time we saw from Jake Danahan earlier. Well, just under a second, I should say. But certainly that's a good opener. And I think he's only going to get quicker from here. So Latinen is really going to have to pull out something special here and gain a lot of confidence very, very quickly.
So much like a go-kart circuit, isn't it? Talking about 47-second lap times and people somehow managing to find a second. But there you go. It's like go-karting. And
Yeah, I'm looking forward to facing you at GPVWC Day.
oh
for the
god,
first
are you
time,
coming
Caitlin.
too, Ed? My goodness, right?
Yeah, I'm doing the 2
You're on.
races.
You are on.
I paid for it, so I hope I'm coming. I haven't booked the hotel yet. but,
Fair enough, fair enough. I don't need to book a hotel because it's only about an hour's drive from my house, so done and dusted.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, we used to have a sim racing place that wasn't too far from here, but I'm pretty sure they now just do golf now.
Yeah.
Virtual golf, I should say. But anyway, I digress. But anyway, back to Latin versus Pum. I'm sort of wondering what Yasi Latin can really do here to get the upper hand. I think he just needs to ace the start and try and keep that momentum up, really. That's got to be his best chance to try and put pressure on Hygo here, because I think Hygo Pum has really got a distinct advantage here.
So will it be Hygo or Yasi? Hygo is on the left-hand side in the red cut, Yasi on the right in the blue cut, and once again, 2 more laps, or 4 more laps of racing, on how you look at it. It's very difficult to find what a lap is on this particular race, but that doesn't really matter too much. It's about who's going to win that we're interested in. So there are the lights once again, and off they go. So if Hygo Pum is able to recreate his race 1 form, then he should be on course to go through to the round of 16. He had a slightly lesser start than Latin there, although according to the times that isn't the case. He seems to have been slightly up. It just looks.
Well, I think Latin had a better start than in the first round, yes. But Hygo looking a little more tentative with his drifts there. Although that last one onto the main straight was pretty solid. And now into the banking he goes, and the the floor of the car desperately complaining and throwing sparks everywhere. As we see Hygo just getting into the middle sector and drifting his way through, trying to hold as much momentum as he can. And the lap times, it's looking pretty solid, but I think Hygo is just a little bit ahead at the moment.
I wish I had my sound turned on as they go through the tunnel.
Oh,
absolutely
big
phenomenal.
hit for Latinen.
Oh, I didn't see that, but Pum has the advantage. He was 0.8 seconds up at the end of that first lap. Is
More trouble for Yasi Latin as well. What happened on the main straight was he just carried too much speed and just made side-on contact with the wall. He saw Hygo was just ahead of him and was pushing that a little bit too hard to catch a gap and into the wall again on the exit of the tunnel there. It's just looking a bit scrappy from Yasi Latin, and I think he knows this is going against him. And look, he's back right off now.
Yeah, just got to get it to the line now. Hope something happens to Hygo Pum. But we're going to keep watching him as he comes up to the line. We'll soon see Hygo Pum emerging from that final turn, and Pum has now won the second of these 3 races. So Hygo Pum will progress to the round of 16. He wins that particular race by 3.4 seconds.
Yeah, and I wonder if Hygo backed off a bit too, because he was 2 tenths slower in the than he was in the first round. So I wonder if somebody told him that Latinen had hit the wall, and he just sort of said, "Right, I'll just bring it home then."
Maybe so. But anyway, a slightly less frantic race we've seen in some of the other rounds, but still plenty of racing to go and plenty of action, I am sure. So the next round, the next matchup, is going to be Shim and Fric versus Magnus Oken. This is one that I've been very much looking forward to here. Shimon has been extremely fast. He was second in the Formula Sprint 1 Championship, won 3 races in the row to start the season off, and then was playing defence for the rest of the season from his teammate Jack Mayer. Mayer eventually caught and passed him with a string of results of his own, but Fric still managed to rack up 7 victories in the Sprint 1 Championship and he's second in the standings, so he qualifies as a result of that. And he of course is against Magnus Okenhaug, who is a fan favourite. He's been doing some Formula Sprint 1 by the look of it. Had a best result of 14th in there from 4 race starts. He also did. He was 8th in the Formula Sprint 2 Championship, where he had a best result of 3rd place at the Belgian Grand Prix. So that is Magnus Okenhaug there. And again, up and coming, came from the Academy Series, did 2 races or 2 rounds in academy earlier this season, ended up progressing further up through the career ladder. And in terms of seeding, it looks as if Frelic should be easily the favourite here, but we've seen so far today that it's absolutely not down to the seeding. It's down to what the drivers do out on the circuit.
Yeah, absolutely then. I would also agree. I think Simon Frelic is probably the driver that's going to have the edge here, but I wouldn't count out Ockenhag from pulling the odd surprise here and there. He's certainly got the pace to do so, but whether he can sustain that for a whole lap is going to be another matter. But yeah, I'm looking forward to another close contest here. Frelic, of course, also did the video for this track as well, I believe.
Oh,
for
nice.
The GPV channel, so I'm sure Simon had to study it a little bit to do the video, so he certainly knows what the track looks like. And now we're going to see him at speed in one of these Alpines.
I really liked the video, actually. I watched it earlier on. I was going to ask who made it, so well done, Shimon. It was actually a very, very fun watch, and got me full on excited for this race. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what happens in this one. Now, Shimon himself is an absolute master of adapting to new cars. I've seen that plenty of times where he'll be hitting the ground running coming into a championship. He tends to do extremely well at the start of the season, more so than the end, and of course that could well translate to these slightly strange Alpine A100 GT4 Cup cars and this very strange circuit. Magnus Ockenhaug is the blue car, Shimon Frelic is the red car. This is the 12th matchup of 16 today, so we're nearly 3/4 of the way through. And once again, it will be a best of 3. You guys know how this works. This works by now, and I'm sure that Ockenhaug will be hoping for a good start here because Frelic is going to defend them. So here come the lights, and off they go once again, and that was a start from Shimon Frelic there. That was nearly inch perfect. Oh, look at that, very wide from Magnus Oken. Yeah, nearly pixel perfect in terms of the lights going out, and Frelic launching towards that first corner.
4.2 at the first timing split.
Yeah,
That's insane from Simon Frelic. That's like you hopped in a Tesla. He just went off like a scolded whippet off the line.
A scolded whippet? I haven't heard that one before, but you're right.
It's like
it's
a
almost like you released
Yorkshire dog.
Like yeah, no, I know what a whippet is. Yeah. Almost like he released the clutch before the lights went up, but it clearly worked for him, Valtteri Bottas style. Ockenhaug a little bit wide through some of these corners. He's up into the tighter turns, and I think Frelic is going to have the advantage as they cross the start-finish line, and it's a big advantage. Look at that, 2.4 seconds, 2.2 seconds there. Surely now Frelic has it in the bag, without meaning to put the commentator's curse on it, of course, but through he comes. And look at the lines he's doing. This could be a contender for the fastest time of all. Shimon Frelic here is absolutely on it. And the line through the final corner, oh, I like that. I really, really do. He's almost caught him out. He's almost caught him on the half lap split. This race, Frelic. Surely he's a contender for the fastest time of all.
Well, we'll have to see. It depends how this final split goes. He's certainly drifting out. Look at that. Able to sustain the drift for a while, but he overdid it ever so slightly. And that puts him a little bit off for the final corner, but it's still going to be more than enough to take victory. 47.3 is the final time on that second lap.
It's a big win. It's a big, big win. 4 seconds in it, but it could have been more. And I really think that if Frelic is able to get a clean run, he can be a real contender here for the top times out of anyone. So now we have to wait for this second break, and that will of course decide whether Frelic goes straight through. We'll have to go to a third race. Yamadox predicted a 2-1 Ockenhaug, so Magnus has got to have a big comeback if that's to go correctly. Luke Maguire says, when's GPWC Day again? I might go. That will be December the 9th, at least when we're karting and the big meetup. Although there's definitely potential for some more social stuff. The 10th of December as well. So if any of you guys around the UK can make that meeting on either of the days, then it would be fantastic to see you. I am very much looking forward to the kart race as well, because my goodness, that is always the highlight of the GPVWC days. And yeah, me and Tom Stevens have a bit of a rivalry last one, so that's going to be one to reignite. Back to the racing though. Shim and Frelic this time will go from the left. Magnus Oken goes from the right. Did I see him creeping a little forward in the box just before the start there? I thought I saw a little creep.
Oh. Yamadok says, yeah, not looking so good for my prediction in response to you, Caitlin. And Carlos says, I promise to go to GPVWC Day if I get eliminated there. And Carlos is going against Zoltzux in the very final race of the day, I believe, as we now see the light about to come on then. And Okenhaug this time has got to fight back from the right-hand side with Frelic on the left.
And it's go! Oh, and a much better start for Frelic, sorry. So Frelic gets away much better.
It almost looked like Simon jumped the start there, but I don't think he did.
It's very much like the first race. He is extremely fast off the line. His reaction times are almost inhuman. I'm going to watch that back on the stream actually to see if he jumped the start. No, it was just, oh my goodness, it really was like a Tesla. It was like watching a four-wheel drive car.
And Okenhaug hits the wall in the tunnel.
Yeah, little touch for Okenhaug, but oh, and he's very wide, just like he was in the first
Really
race.
struggles with that corner under the bridge, doesn't he? Just after the start-finish.
Yeah, kicking it sideways. It looks like he's focusing on the entry to the hairpins a lot. Exit. It's really the exit you need to focus on, just because of the momentum that the cars can build up. 1.4 seconds is the advantage that Frelic has.
Much tighter from Simon in the same section.
Yeah. I think this has been a slightly slower first lap for Frelic than it was in the first race, but if he hooks it up in the second lap, he could still be on for an extremely fast time. Up towards the bridge he goes, and he's just got to do half a lap now. Again, sparks flying. The rear tyres sliding out from underneath it. It's nice and controlled, as it has every single driver so far in this event.
But look, Simon knows he doesn't have to push that much because he's got such a big advantage on Okenhaug. 6 seconds already. Magnus is really just struggling out there. Well, it's not 6, it's more like 1.4 actually, but if to be completely honest. But there we go. Final lap time 46.8 from Simon Frelic.
Oh, and a spin, and Okenhaug's into the... I mean, it doesn't matter because Frelic had already won the race, and Okenhaug can finish off his campaign in the Race of Champions by backing it across the start-finish line. And congratulations to Magnus Okenhaug for giving us a bit of a show, I suppose. Well, not congratulations, but thank you very much for doing what you can. And Shim and Frelic has understandably and predictably gone through to the round of 16. A very fast time and a very spirited drive from Shim and Frelic's car. So there's still plenty of time to go today, and the next race, we've got 4 more races to go. The next one will be Schutter versus Stein Handgraf. So 2 relatively unknown drivers in terms of their true potential. Schutter only did half a season in GPVWC Super League this year, but was very competitive in those races that he did. Actually scored a 2nd place finish at the Spanish Grand Prix, and I really think he would have easily at the top 10 in the championship had Yett. He also did a few races in Super Light with the best result of 6th place, also at the Spanish Grand Prix. So that's a track that suits him. As for Stein Handgraf, he is a driver who I have to admit I've not seen racing that much, so I'm not entirely sure on what his potential is. But Handgraf was he one of the drivers who had to qualify for this round? Yes, he was. So Handgraf has proven his pace at this circuit. He's done 2 races in Formula Sprint 2, best result of 11th in that championship. Those are his only GPVWC results, like as it stands. But he did qualify for this race faster than Christos Fillo and Noah Tuomela we've already seen out there. So definitely look out for Stein Handgraf in this one as he fights for Mark Schutter.
Yeah, as you say, neither of them really, I would say, maybe household names. Mark Schluter, not only did he do a few very impressive drives here, not least Super League in Spain, where he was narrowly runner-up to Tom Stevens on that occasion in the Green Stripes racing car, but also he did a full campaign for virtual drivers by TX3 in Formula Sim racing alongside Janik Bock, who of course is a double Super League champion. And Schluter, I thought, fared fairly well in his rookie campaign, and he helped TX3 get to, I believe, fifth in the standings, just behind RHG Esports. I think Schluter was just outside the top 10 in the end, in sort of a 13th or 14th in the standings, but he had a lot of top 10 finishes over the course of the year, especially as it went on. He just kept getting more and more competitive. Handgraph, I know a little bit less about him, but I know he's been in sim racing for a while. I think at least since 2020, drives a lot in VEC Virtual Endurance Championship, does the Dutchman. So Germany versus Holland should be an interesting one. Handgraph, I think the real wildcard. Schluter, I think, would be my favourite to get through here.
Well, I would like to point out we do actually have some times to prepare for these guys already, because both of these drivers took part in the qualification session for this round. Now, Mark Schluter has inherited the third place seed due to the withdrawal of Jan Granqvist, although that of course meant that he moved up from the position that he was in. He had already qualified for the event, so Mark Schluter too had to qualify just as Stein Handgraf did, and they were actually first and second in that qualifying session. So Schluter was originally 29th place seed. Sorry, he is... Yes, no. So Schluter was originally 29th place seed. Handgraf was originally 30th placed seed. Schluter only moving up as a result of a withdrawal, meaning realistically he is still a driver who qualified to enter. And so this could be a very close one. I'm just trying to find the times that they actually set. It looks as if... Oh, here we go. So Schluter in the GPVWC Academy car was just over a tenth of a second faster than Stein Handgraf. This could be a very close one.
Yeah, it certainly could. Well, it'd be interesting who's practiced more since. Handgraf is on the server as we speak, has just set a 47.9 in his little warm-up on his own while he waits for Mark Schluter to resurface. But yeah, I think I don't think either of them are going to be setting the outright quickest times, but the two of them could be very, very close, Caitlin. I think you're right, unless one of them finds something quite spectacular. But yeah, like I said, in what I've seen of Mark Schluter this year, I have been very impressed. So Handgraf, I think, could well put in a drive that impresses us too. But I think he's going to have to go quite some to beat Mark Schluter.
It is a big shame that both the third placed and fourth placed seeded driver coming into this pulled out before the start. Jan Granqvist, of course, pulled out due to a neck injury. Not sure quite how that happened or how bad it is, but we do hope you get better soon. And then, of course, Adam Maguire was a no-show. Not sure of the reason for that just yet, but anyway. It does mean, of course, that the third and fourth seeded drivers were absent from this round, and that's why we've now got this bizarre situation of two qualifying drivers fighting each other yet again. Of course, judging by the lap times they set in the Academy car, Schluter should be slightly quicker, but the Academy car is very different from this closed cockpit Alpine A100 GT4. This car, of course, much more based on mechanical grip, and of course much slidier than you can afford to be in the Academy car. So now we just have to wait for them to be ready and wait for the round to kick off. We're still about 2 minutes ahead of schedule, which is always better than being behind schedule. And this will be the 13th of our 16 races today.
We did get a message from Granqvist at the end of the previous match, by the way. He said he described Darius Andre as Radius Andre because he crossed the line backwards, essentially. And then Chris Isvillo asked how his recovery was going, and Jan said, still worse each day, although today it's just been the same as yesterday. And he said, probably because I took meds. So that is the update
Right.
from... Of course, I think everyone wishes him the best and that he isn't suffering too much during this race. Although, as much as we'd rather see him in the car, it's better for his recovery that he isn't driving. So anyway, I think I think we will see Jan back to his best next season in 2024. Of that, I'm absolutely certain.
Jan Grangfist was one of my drivers of the season this year. He was very, very quick and definitely one of the most improved at the Super League Championship, coming out of absolutely nowhere to very nearly win several races. And that Japanese Grand Prix was one of the best races that I've ever seen in my life from any driver. He was extremely unlucky not to win that one, and if qualifying hadn't been quite so up in the air, hadn't been quite so wet, and he'd started higher up on the grid, then I have absolutely no doubt that he would have won that Grand Prix, even if he'd started maybe one position higher on the grid. But of course, we will never know. That is purely speculation. He got extremely close to winning the Grand Prix in Germany, in Singapore. He was also on the podium in Brazil, Italy, Hungary, Canada, Spain. Jan Grangfist, surely, if he sticks with GPVWC Super next year, which I really hope that he will, he is absolutely going to win races, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's up there in the fight for the championship. But unfortunately, can't prove that in the Race of Champions.
Yeah, I think Jan is one of those guys who I think I said it in the Super League broadcast at Sao Paulo. If he didn't have bad luck, he'd have no luck. But I think another way of looking at it is he's really shown what he can do, and he's given himself the opportunity to perform at a very, very high level, not just in GPV Super League, but also he's had some great performances in FSR World Championship as well against some amazing drivers like Jerne Simoncic, like Denan himself as well, another good example. Really performed against the highest possible competition in any R-Factor 2 series he's been up against. So I think Jan fully deserves that sort of vote as a driver of the season, even though there's, like I said, some many other great candidates as well, I think, who also deserve a shout of that accolade too. But anyway, Stijn Handgraf still continues to circulate. He's actually set a 47.6 himself now in the warm-up. No sign yet of Mark Schluter, though.
Well, we should get going because we're about a minute over the schedule now. So if Mark Schluter isn't in the server soon, he might end down as a no-show. So far, we only have Stijn Handgraf.
Yeah, somebody needs to send an urgent message to TX3 asking where Mark is.
Oh no, is it going to be another walkover? I very much hope not, but it looks like it might be. As Stijn Handgraf lines up on the grid completely by himself now.
This is not a great advert for GPVWC Race of Champions.
No, if he completes this race, Schluter does not take part, then that of course means that he will go through as an automatic buy, just as Davide Zanini run with Adam Maguire's no-show. So, whatever's happened to Mark Schluter, we're not entirely sure. Maybe he's having technical issues, maybe he's forgotten that this is on.
Yeah, I just looked at showing him offline on Discord, so I assume he's just asleep or something, or eating dinner maybe, or very late dinner.
A couple of people have tagged him desperately to try to get him to join.
It's too late now, off goes
Away
Stein.
goes Stijn Handgraf, and there is absolutely nothing to play for here. He will go through to the next round, providing, of course, he wins this race before Mark Schluter shows up, because otherwise Schluter might have it. Of course, if Schluter did show up now, he might have a point that they could go again and maybe do the best of three, but I think if Handgraf is to win this race and go forward, then there's absolutely nothing that Schluter can say.
No, I don't think there is, Caitlin, as we look at Handgraf just autographing his name really on the round of 16 entry list, I think.
You know what would be the fairest thing to do, which I would absolutely love to see them. I mean, it's not going to happen because it would mess up the bracket, but I would love to see them do an extra round between Davide Zanini and Stijn Handgraf, just so that they've been able to race someone and then decide who can go through as a result of that. But it would mess up the bracket, and it would still need one more person in the 16.
Well, it means
so
somebody else in the round of 16 would have no one to go against, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Start his second lap then. 51.5 was the first lap there, so not a bad effort from a standing start. And with no pressure upon him, he's free to push as hard as he likes, but he's taking it relatively easy, I think, in the scheme of things.
Well, why would he not, I suppose, as he comes towards the line again.
Oh, quite a wide entry there to the final corner, though. 47.6.
47.6. That's about the same as what Hao Pum was doing. So, not
I think it's yeah, slightly quicker actually.
yeah, not too bad at all, and he will go through to the last round by virtue of Schluter not even being here. So the next race will be between Massimiliano Riboli and Alex Laho. Riboli has qualified as a result of being he's qualified as a result of the 4th FS2 championship, although he's seeded as if he was second FS2 championship, because the 2nd and 3rd place drivers in FS2 this year, Maxime Seifert, did not sign up to the Race of Champions. So instead, that's given to Stylin and Mikael Tuomala an automatic entry. Tuomala, of course, who is already out. But Riboli will come into this one as the 14th seeded driver. And of course, he had a very strong season in FS. The end of his championship was the most competitive, as he won a race in both Singapore and Abu Dhabi, and always one of the front runners in the FS2 championship. I think he was doing FS2 last year, if I remember. Did some races in FS1 as well, finished 9th in Italy, so that was his best result in that championship, and had 3 outings in Super Lights, where his best result was a 12th placed finish. As for who's his opponent, sorry, my apologies.
Be Alex Laho, wouldn't it?
Alex Laho, my apologies. So Alex Laho is a driver, again, is known as a little bit of a meme lord within the GPVWC community, but that is with the utmost respect, because he definitely has the driving talent to back that up. He won the first race at Saudi Arabia this year in FS1, and was 10th overall in the FS1 championship. He also did 4 outings in SL2 with the best result of 7th position, and 3 outings in Super League, although unfortunately no finishes. I saw a meme earlier on in the Discord server, which showed the bracket from this championship, but it had Alex Laho going against the checkered flag, which I thought was a little bit mean. But yes, Laho will of course go up against Alex Riboli. Massimiliano Riboli.
Massimiliano Riboli.
And these two I've always had in my head as quite maps, so I think that this could be quite something.
Yeah, Riboli obviously had a bit of a tricky FS2 season, especially compared to his teammate Luke Mitchell, but he played a key role in, again, securing that FS2 team's title. With those 2 wins as well, definitely helping out. And he's certainly got a pretty decent pace. Alex Laho, though, often people, he's had 2 pole positions in FS1 this season. A lot of his rivals talk about him as one of the very, very quickest out there over the course of 1 lap. Of course, over race distance, there's a tendency sometimes for mistakes to creep in, but he has been working on that and getting quicker and quicker each passing year. So Laho could really be a big threat to Massimiliano Riboli, especially since Riboli was, I think, saying in one of the Discord chats earlier that I was reading, he basically said that everyone else had practiced and he hadn't. So I think Massimiliano's expectations are quite low going into this, whereas Alex Laho definitely wants to end the year on a definite high.
Has a good opportunity to do so. This is
first in the server too.
Yes, very good. Now, if you look at the seeds this championship, and if you mean much, then this should be one of the closest rounds that there are. They're only separated by 5 seeds, with Riboli seeded 15th and Laho seeded 19th. I do have to admit I put very little emphasis on the actual seeds themselves. I think that they really don't matter in the grand scheme of things, especially since different drivers have different skill sets, and it mainly sums up the way you qualified for this event. Riboli qualified, of course, as a result of being 4th in the FS2 championship, whereas Laho qualified as part of the Challengers category, so one of the invitational entries. And we're just having to wait a couple of minutes for both to get in. They are both in the server at least, so we been a long day, hasn't it, Ed? We've got this race and two more to come.
You cut out for me
Definitely.
suddenly there, so I there was a gap because I didn't know if you were still talking and it just hadn't come back for me yet, or if
That's
I could
okay,
just
don't
cut
worry
in. So yeah, it makes the day feel even longer when I just don't know whether to talk or not. But yeah, only a handful of races left to go then, and they're all going to be pretty decent matchups, I think. Especially this one, Riboli versus Lahu, and I think Martin versus Zux could be quite close as well in our final race of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. So here they come to the grid, and one driver who I'm very much looking forward to seeing in action as well is Dylan Platt. I think he's a sleeping giant in this competition as well, especially now that Granqvist and Maguire are out. Definitely, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing Dylan Platt in the next race. But anyway, Lahu and Riboli have a lot to show as well, and they appear to have both selected the same livery. That is not great, unfortunately, so now we have to just pick them apart by what lane they're starting in. So Lahu is on the left, Riboli is on the right, and off they go, and the identical cars get pretty much identical start, head across the top finish line. Riboli showing up
Lahu
there.
was a tenth faster.
Oh yeah, Lahu, sorry. Yeah, it does appear that the race view is more accurate than the actual server timing, which would make sense, I suppose. So Lahu was ever so slightly faster, heading up towards turn 1 there, but they looked very much neck and neck going down that straight. So Lahu heading up through the bridge, around the corners, and getting that second apex. Oh wow, swung it to the right very early on there. Almost missed the corner.
Was quite slow in the middle sector, 26.1. Usually they're setting 25s in there. So Riboli, a lot of time to make up now.
And Lahu leads by 1.6 seconds. So Alex Lahu is getting away now. That's new. Here is Riboli. Let's see if we can spot anything that he's doing differently to Alex Lahu. Oh, big switch. Oh, he's going to lose some more time. Oh no.
I think he actually got both rear wheels over the curb there, and that was what hurt him, because he just had no traction.
Yeah, it dragged him wide, didn't it? Yikes.
Yeah, it looks like Lahu is still going pretty quickly out there, but Riboli sets another 26 as well, so yeah, it's not looking too positive for him. I think Alex has got this one. Here he comes.
And out of the final corner, and Alex Lahu, despite brushing the barriers, does win the first of the matchup, himself and Alex Riboli, by 4.5 seconds as a result of that slide. And it's a 46.659. That is very fast for Alex Lahu. That's on par with Denahan, right?
That is, yes. I can't remember exactly what time Denahan set, but it was definitely 46.6 something. I can have a very, very quick look to try and...
Oh god, yeah, I've seen it. Sorry. So Denahan was a 46.662. Lahu was a 46.699, at least according to the sheet that I've got.
I thought it was 5.9.
Actually, yeah, well, yeah, sorry, it might not have updated.
Yeah, it was 46.659, yes, so Lahu was faster. And
there we go, it literally just updated. Lahu is the fastest driver so far by 3,000ths of a second. Goodness me, what a time from Alex Lahu there. And even if Riboli had got it under control, that would still have been a big win. And Riboli, I'm afraid to say, was actually the slowest time we've seen so far in terms of like the slowest, fastest time, if that makes sense. Obviously, the slowest time we've seen full stop was when Joe Gillette landed on his side. But
it kind of been slower than Okenhau going backwards across the line.
Yeah, I believe it was.
I hope not. Oh dear.
Because at least Okenhau kept it moving.
Sweet rearward momentum. By the way, Davide Zanini is absolutely lauding his unbeaten run so far
Well
in the
done,
chat.
Davide. Well done.
I wonder if Shin Handgraf is going to do the same as well. But when he faces Lloyd Munier tomorrow, we'll see if that holds. But anyway, so this is a bit hard to tell who's on which side of the track now.
So it'll be Riboli on the left. Yes.
We're looking at Lahu on the right. There we go.
You can always tell because if you look at the top left of the screen, the driver as number 1 is always on the left-hand side. I figured that early on. So here we go, and the lights go out, and again it's a very even start. Lahu appeared to be slightly faster yet again, although yes, it does show him a slightly faster first sector. So Lahu is ahead, and once again we watch him as he goes
Ooh,
through.
drift there.
Oh,
And again, he gets all over the curb too.
That's the one that tripped up Rivoli in the first sector. Now watch Lahu through here. This is an absolute masterclass of driving. And that is exactly... Oh, he touches the wall again, but I think it might be helping him out through that final corner there.
Yeah.
He's not walloping it.
Really getting the drift on early to give himself as much room to work with as he needs, but no more than necessary.
An absolute masterclass from Alex Lahu. Kicked up a little bit of grass, but again, that won't have cost him any time whatsoever. Across the line, and again builds up a big lead. 1.3 seconds is the gap here. I think he's just got to cruise it home now. Absolutely nurse the car. Here's Rivoli. Has he got anything else left in the tank? It was a little... just a bit of an overcorrection.
He got the drift on
through
as he was exiting the corner there, and he had to collect it up. So that was not neat and tidy. There's a tidy drift and there's an untidy drift, and unfortunately, Rivoli is the latter right now.
And again, Lahu very nearly catching him just on that half split. So through comes Rivoli. This is where he got a bit sideways.
Oh, again, he did it again there. The angle sort of hit it, but he
not quite as bad. But Alex Lahu is going to win this now. Through the final corner they go, and Lahu has already crossed the line, and it's a 46.866, so not quite as fast as his first race, but even so he has won by 1.3 seconds, so he will go through to the... sorry, by 10 seconds, so Rivoli's lifted well off at the end there. But yes, Alex Lahu goes through to the round of 16, and he will be a force to be reckoned with, and will face Stein Hand, of course, the undefeated Stein in the round of 16. Now we have just one more round to be contested of the round of 16. So we've got two different brackets of the round of 32 to decide who will in that round. And first of all, we have one of the main contenders in my Dylan Platt, who was second in SL2 this year, going up against Dominic Koroshavin. So let's have a look at their results so far. So Dylan Platt won the Belgian round of the Super Lights Championship this year. Didn't quite have the performance to keep up with Mogi, but then again, absolutely no one did. And so all he needed to do really was be as consistent as he was to keep his second position in that Super League Championship. Dylan also did a couple of rounds, did 4 rounds in fact, of Super League, finishing 10th on 2 occasions at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. The Australian Grand Prix and the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. As for Dominic Koroshavin, again, it's a name that I know slightly less, although he did Super Lights for the majority of the year. Finished 9th place at the Hungarian round of the championship, and that appears to have been all of his outings in GPVWC this year. Running with the Ukrainian by the look of things, so awesome that Dominique is here despite everything going on in, of course, his homeland of Ukraine, and I'm sure will be racing with that in his heart. And he has a tough opponent to go up against here with Dylan Platt, probably one of my top 3 in terms of the people who could win this championship.
Yeah, certainly, it's shaping up to be a very close tournament of those who've got through to the round of 16 tomorrow. Of course, Platt and Koroshavin, it's been a difficult time really for both of them, because Koroshavin, obviously you mentioned the war in Ukraine, and Dylan Platt having a very personal loss in his family as well this season. So both of them have been fighting on regardless, and Dylan Platt, I think, put in an excellent campaign, all things considered, in Super Lights. Was the closest to Owen Magorgi of all the competitors to him. Got on pole position in Monza, and I think it was just days after his personal loss in the family that he set that pole position lap. Even though the race didn't quite pan out in his favour, Dylan really showed a lot of triumph, ability to come back from really horrible adversity. So I think full marks to him, and he definitely wants to end the year on a high here at Race of Champions. I think Koroshavin who is a pretty solid driver. Like you say, not too many eye-catching results to his name in GPV as of yet, but there's still plenty of time to set them. I think Kurashavin might struggle to keep up with Dylan Platt here, but you never know, he might put in a few surprises.
Indeed. Well, I didn't know that about Dylan Platt, so commiserations and also congratulations on picking yourself up so well. And we have quite a round of the Race of Champions coming up. Both of these drivers are now in the service, so both will prepare to get going very shortly, I'm sure. And I was going to say that the times to look out for are the ones that have just been set, but realistically the only driver you've got to beat is the driver that you're up against at this point in time. If it was a pure hot lapping championship, Alex would have just absolutely laid down the gauntlet, but as it is, he's got to be strong in every car that he puts himself in. You've still, of course, got the stock car coming up. You've got the Radical SR3, potentially the Renault RS01, which will be used later on. I'm very much looking forward to seeing that, because that is a beautiful car and definitely personal favourites. And who knows how that is going to go down. That, of course, is all to come tomorrow. We've got a huge day of action ahead of us with the quarterfinals, semi-finals, even a third place playoff doing tomorrow, and then, of course, the grand final. Now, who's going to be in that is anyone's guess at this point in time, but the way the tournament is looking, it has to be someone from the first 8 rounds versus someone from the last 8 rounds. So it could end up being our 2 fastest drivers so far, Jake versus Alex Laho. We are very much getting us ahead of ourselves, because there's plenty more to face. Before then, of course, Jake Denham will have to Maguire tomorrow. Alex Laho will have to go up against Stein Hangraf. But for the time being, we turn our focus to Dylan Platt and Dominic Kurashavin. So Platt in the red car, Kurashavin in the blue car. Very glad that we're back to red and blue rather than both red for this one. And once again, the lights come on and they extinguish, and off we go.
Oh.
And Kurashavin gets away very badly. So Platt gets a much better start up towards turn 1 and has a big advantage for the rest of the competition.
It looked like Kurashavin thought that he jumped the start and just sort of backed off there. It was very, very odd. That it just sort of bogged down as much as it did, and he's taking very little curb there, so Dominic just looks a little bit tentative as he's trying to get a feel for this Alpine then around this Race Champion circuit. But Dylan Platt, meanwhile, is just absolutely gonna go for it then while there's the opportunity. While the iron's hot, he will strike, and Kurashavin gets well over the grass there and before he collects it up again, and again just not drifting at all through these wide hairpins, just taking it very, very tentatively. Oh, but getting a little bit squirrely on the power on the way out then. So Kurashavin comes out just behind then by just under a second.
So Platt leads by 9/10 of a second. I wonder what gears the drivers are using these hairpins. It kind of looks almost like they're sticking you first, these massive drifts that you're seeing. But there's definitely got to be sections of the course where the second, third, etc. maybe just about snatching fourth at the straights, but it really depends on how confident the drivers are the exits that they get to these corners. That was not a particularly great corner for Platt. He was rubbing the wall,
hugging the
all
wall
the way
as
around.
well.
Yeah, he was scraping it. So Kurashavin might have a chance here, because I think he was cleaner through that.
A little bit. Depends though. It's going to come down to these final corners. I think Dylan Platt's going to be comfortably ahead.
Yeah, I think Kurashavin must have made a mistake on the first lap.
Yeah, 26.8 in the Sector 2 there.
So 2.6 seconds the gap, and Platt has the first blood in his duel. He will go into the second race of 3, ahead by 1 victory.
Yeah, pretty decent opening time, 47.7 from Dylan Platt. But Kurashavin, of course, was far enough behind that he didn't really have to push to the absolute maximum there. So not quite an Alex Laho style lap, sadly. But who knows? It could be tomorrow we do see Alex Laho and Dylan Platt face each other, as you say, Caitlin. I'm also very excited to see if Jake Dennehan and Alexandro Magio could face each other in the quarterfinals. that would be quite a matchup. But they've, of course, got to beat their respective round of 16 finalists in the form of Luke Maguire, Silver Yoffert, Stin Handgraf, and whoever wins out of Platt and Kurashavin, and then Martin and Zux, of course.
Indeed. So, Kurashavin and Platt are set to go again. Kurashavin will be on the left-hand side of the grid. Platt will be on the right. And this could be the first of the... We could have maybe 5 races to go, including this one. Of course, that does depend on who wins the last few races. The minimum number of races we could do from here, of course, is 3. This one. So we really are drawing to a close now on day 1 of the GPVWC Race of Champions. That's a good thing, because tomorrow is going to be even more exciting, and there's going to be even more to look forward to. But here we go again. Dominic Kurashavin going from the left. Does he get a better start this time? Go! It's a better start, although still Platt draws slightly ahead going down in turn 1.
Oh, not even going to try and drift under the bridge, Kurashavin. So again, just really, really tentative. He's not willing to let that back end slide out on the entry to these corners. He just wants to keep it nice, neat, tidy, and under control. And really, if you're not feeling confident with this car, you can't really blame him for that.
Indeed. Over the bridge he goes, through the left. And again, the sparks fly. We've seen that in every single race so far today. Dominic Kurashavin is putting on a show for the crowd. Slightly touches the wall there. A little bump, but keeps it under control. And through he goes. Oh, big slide. Big slide. I said he was putting on a show. The crowd can't even see him at that point. And it's very close across the line. Kurashavin slightly ahead this time. So despite the slight mistakes that we may have seen, Dylan Platt was 1/10 of a second behind him as they crossed the start-finish line. Ed, this is going to be a close one.
Yeah, it looked a bit like Kurashavin just keeping it neat and tidy the safe way maybe was the right way in that instance, because Dylan Platt just wasn't quite as good. He was spectacular, I think, with the drifting, but it wasn't quite giving him the lap time on that occasion. Again, he's now taking it quite neat and tidy through this same section as well. So interesting. They're both going pretty conservative, but now Dylan Platt through these wide corners starts to drift out just a little bit, but not through the second hairpin, although a little on the exit there. So this could be nip and tuck.
It's going to be close. And Platt's just got it. Just about. Platt gets it by 6/10 of a second. So he brings it back on the second time around. That is why you don't give up in
final sector for Kurashavin, 26.2.
Oh, I thought he had it after that second sector there. But that means, of course, that Dylan Platt now will go through to the round of 16, just as I expected. So we have only one more driver, only one more competitor to decide. And it will be between Carlos Martin and Zolt Hughes.
Yeah, 46.7 for... it was 47.6, sorry, from Dylan Platt, so 10th quicker than in the first round. So it's that second lap that really secured it when he needed it. But yeah, only one more to go, and it's two very, very competitive guys in Carlos Martin and Zolt Hughes. Of course, Martin has done a few rounds of Super League. Zolt Hughes has done, I think, the whole season in Super League. And funnily enough, I think they've also faced each other in a FSR World Championship as well before. Zolt Hughes with the Ground Effect team, Carlos Martin with Netrex, of course.
Indeed. Carlos Martin qualified as a result 3rd in the FS1 Championship this year. He won 5 races in that championship, although unfortunately had to miss the Belgian Grand Prix round. Otherwise, I think a bit closer to the TOP esports drivers. Then, of course, he took part in 3 races in Super Lights and was a shock victor in his very first race of the season in that, winning at the Japanese round of the championship. Finished on the podium all 3 rounds. In fact, stood on every step of the podium. And then, of course, did some Super League races as well, with a best result of 5th place at the Singapore Grand Prix. So extremely impressive stuff from the Spaniard, Carlos Martin. Zolt Hughes, on the other hand, only took part in Super League this year. He also has a best result of 5th place. That came at the Australian Grand Prix. So these two drivers, both with a best result of 5th in Super League, and again, potentially a very evenly matched bracket, this one here. Zoltschukes, by the way, qualified as a result of being one of the challengers, one of the invitational drivers. He is seeded 22, whereas Martin is seeded 11. Although realistically, I think this is going to be much closer than I guessed.
Yeah, both of these guys really, really good qualifiers, actually. Martin, I think, and the Netrex team in FS1 became very well known this season for just doing really, really clever strategies. They would often even outsmart TOP, who were the eventual team's champions, of course. Hungary comes to mind, where they just completely outfoxed them by doing an extra stop and just catching up all that time with both their drivers, actually. Zoltschukes, other way around, sorry, they did one stop left. As Vincent corrected me. That's very true. What did you do in that race, by the way, Vincent? He said he did the wrong strategy. Oh, he said he did the right strategy, he just wasn't quick enough. Okay, there we go. Oh, he spun. There we go. Right. So there we go. Anyway, so as for Zoltschukes, very, very good qualifying in FSR World Championship this season. Carlos Martin didn't quite do the full season there, but the one race they did do together was the opening round in Bahrain. Carlos Martin finished 12th, Zoltschukes finished 13th. So Zux, not quite as good a finishing record in the races as he has as a qualifying record. But certainly that won't matter here because it's only one lap to do. So I think this format really plays to the strengths of drivers like Zoltschukes and Alex Lahu. And maybe Carlos Martin might have to find something special here. Although he's qualifying in FS1, he did take a few poles himself. So, like you say, very evenly matched, Caitlin, between these two, between the Hungarian and the Spaniard.
So just one matchup to go in the first day GPVWC Sim Race of Champions. Let's support the drivers all we can, cheer on your favourite, because this is the last time you'll get a chance to do so today. Here come the lights, and when they go out, we'll be underway yet again in the GPVWC Sim Race of the Champions, and it's a slightly better start for Carlos Martin? Yes, because Jukes is on the left-hand side. So Jukes with the blue car, Martin with the red car. Jukes hanging out the tail. This could be a feisty one.
Yeah, it's also just looking a little bit scrappy here, but taking it pretty conservatively on this first lap, or at least first half of the lap. Or drifting through the final corner, of course, to get the better exit onto the main straight. It looks like 21.8, and that's not too bad for Zoltschukes. 25.6 for Carlos Martin through his particular section. So, yeah, neither of them looking particularly slow, but it's going to be those fine margins here as Zoltschukes approaches the tunnel.
Through the tunnel he goes. This is a very important corner. You've got to get a good exit here, because then you get a double apex. And Carlos Martin crosses the line. Oh, it's just 0.4 of a second. This could still go either way. Carlos Martin just ahead. Remember, we've got at least one more race of this up as well. And I'm very much delighted to say so. What a wonderful note to end today's action on, as Carlos Martin is controlling that car beautifully. I think he did touch the wall slightly. He's still under control. Out of the turn. He's got half a lap to go. And really, it's impossible to tell who's quicker at this point in time. I think Jukes might just be making up some time here. Only just, though. It's going to be such a close finish. And it all comes down to this final sector now. Carlos Martin has one corner to go. Where is Zoltschukes? And Martin gets it. So Martin gets the first of the races by 1.1 seconds in the end. So he had a much better second lap there. And his time in the end is a 47.4. So now we get to do it all over again, and I still think that this could be a close one. Carlos Martin has the advantage now, Ed.
Yeah, there was that final sector, 21.6, that really clinched it for Carlos Martin. He was drifting through the wider corners, whereas we saw Zux going pretty conservatively through that section. What was the thing that Carlos promised earlier? He says, I promise to go to GPVWC Day if I get eliminated today. So, yeah. I have a feeling maybe Carlos might find an excuse not to go at this rate.
Well, he's got to do it again. I mean, it's tough stuff here. The fact is,
these are both wasn't too far behind. It wouldn't take too much for him to get to even the score here.
Yeah, absolutely. And Martin this time will have to go from the left-hand side of the grid with Jukes on the right. God, it's just so there's so much adrenaline. It happens so quick. And these guys have had to wait basically all evening for their race. It's been a long broadcast, a long day of racing, and they've seen others go first. They've really had to wait their turn, and only now are they able to actually get in these cars and get going. And surely that's got their nerves running. We're just waiting for Zolchuk. There he is now. Lights at the head of the field. Unfortunately, this will be the last race, or potentially the last race that we do in the Alpine A100 in today as well, although it has been a beautiful car to drive. And away they go once again. Martin with a slightly better start. Gets away. He has the advantage. Into the right hand we
There we go.
Kicks out the
Immediately
tail.
drifting as well, Caitlin.
Immediately kicking up grass as well. All of the track and more. How many times have we said that today? You see the brake lights flashing just a little touch as they go into the corner, just to kick the tail out and get the car driving, get the car rotating. Through onto the second part of the first lap he goes. Up by the wall. It comes out a bit there. That must be a really daunting bit of track for the drivers. I can imagine many of these guys have hit that in practice. And then into the tunnel. This place, it almost looks as if they hit the wall every time they go through it. And out towards the line. I saw him pumping the brakes there. Interesting stuff. And it's again a relatively close first lap. Just 6/10 in it. And this could still go either way. Jukes. Martin just needs to make sure that he makes no more mistakes. Jukes has got to push. He cannot afford to do anything wrong here.
Yeah, but the problem is, the more he pushes, the more likely he is to bin it into the wall. And look at how wide he goes there.
He touched the wall on both sides.
Walls, 3 walls.
Oh, I think it might be Martin's now. That's not the line that you need through that corner. I think this might be going the way of Carlos Martin. Come on, Schultz. We want one more race here. We want one more race. Otherwise, this will be the end of the first day of GPVWC competition. Through the final corner, and it is going to be Carlos Martin, who is the final driver to progress to the round of 16. So, after a wonderful day of racing, let's give it up for our 16 drivers who will progress to the next round. Jake Denahan, Luke Maguire, Silver Yoffert, Alessandro Maggio, Davide Zanini, Loric Munier, Owen Magorgi, David Vasan, Tom Stevens, Darius Andre, Hao Pum, Shim Frelick, Stein Handgraf, Alex Lahu, Dylan Platt, and Carlos Martin.
Yeah, wow. All of them have put in pretty good performances. Of course, we didn't quite get to see what Zanini and Handgraf could do against actual competition, but we will definitely tomorrow when they face their respective winners in the form of Munier and Alex Lahu, who, of course, Munier and Lahu are teammates, of course, for TCS Off Racing and Team Iris this season. So a very competitive duo. It'll be interesting to see if those two face each other later on in the quarterfinals or semi-finals, indeed. But yeah, everyone there is going to put on quite a show tomorrow. But I think those other 15 are really going to be gunning to depose Jake Denahan as not just as the Racer Champions reigning champion, of course, from 2022, as well as obviously the current Super League champion. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where the challenge comes from. We could see a really unique matchup when we get to the semis and the final here, given the amount of people that are involved.
Indeed, we really do have something to look forward to. I have to admit, I am absolutely shattered after that. This has been a very long broadcast, but it's been very much worth it. And tomorrow is going to be quite a show. So definitely join us then. We'll be going live at about the same time, I believe, as we are today. Although looking at the schedule, the races do seem to be starting slightly later, so I'm not entirely sure about that. That will be updated. Okay, thank you very much. So, in fact, we will be going live at about the same time as today, so definitely keep your eyes open for when the broadcast or the upcoming broadcast is posted to YouTube. And of course, we'll have plenty of action to you tomorrow. The Radical SR3 RSX, the Renault RS01, potentially a nice big stock car towards the end as well. And of course, all of the 16 drivers that qualified today going back at it again in completely different machinery, the same circuit that we've grown to love over the course of the day. And I am certainly looking forward to tomorrow. How about you, Ed?
Oh, definitely. Those variety of cars could really change the picture here, because it's going to be whoever's the most adaptable, because you're not getting a whole lot of time to practice in all the different cars, unless you're doing it offline, of course, like a naughty person, but getting the extracurricular practice in. But yeah, we're going to see those who really are able to gain confidence quickly benefit, and those who maybe take a longer time to bed in are really going to have to hope that the round goes a bit longer and the person they're racing against makes mistakes. So yeah, the dynamics are going to change rapidly, even though the circuit's going to remain exactly the same. And I'm really enjoying it so far. I think the competition is only going to heat up from here, and that first round, Denahan versus Maguire, is going to be really, really exciting as well. So it's going to start exciting, and it's going to keep up that momentum all the way through to the final.
Absolutely. I've been Caitlin Penny. Thank you very much, Ed Hunter, for today. Thank you as well to Vincent Gutt, who has provided the stream that you've seen and the broadcast that you've been watching. And thank you to all of our competitors for putting on a show, and of course all of you guys for joining and watching. Join us again tomorrow, but in the meantime, take care.